Hey guys, welcome to Green Bean Fiction. So in today's video we are gonna see what if Izuku had electromagnetic quirk and married Momo and Uraraka, part 1. Before starting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are interested in MHA fanfictions. This story is Electromagnetic Engagement by Stillwell03. Now without wasting any more time, let's dive in. Third person POV. 18 being a parent was never something Nana Shimura had thought her life would turn to. But after discovering that the last remnant of her late husband was growing inside her, she opted to hold on to that last flame of her love. She is the current holder of an astronomically powerful quirk known as One for All, and due to each predecessor before her having no children after attaining the mantle as a holder, she had no idea of how it would affect her unborn son. Her selected successor, a young man by the name of Toshinori Yagi, had yet to be given One for All and had been training in secret with her. Soon the early weeks turned to months and the media swarmed her as she entered her second trimester of pregnancy. Millions of media interviewers, fans, and fanatics badgered her with questions of the yet-to-be-born child. The one question that remained in the air was, what was his quirk going to be? Being a 10th-generation quirk user herself, she was confident that her son would be born with a quirk but had no idea of what it would be or how One for All would affect his quirk or her predecessors for that matter. 26 With the last few days of her pregnancy coming to an end, she gave her successor One for All as well as a recommendation into the prestigious School of Heroics, Ua University. Toshinori had a difficult life. At his quirkless diagnosis, his parents abandoned him to fend for himself. Nana had found the young boy, abandoned, scared, malnourished and worst of all, alone. She had just started her hero career and gotten married when she found him. Not taking no for an answer, she took in young Toshinori as her son and prosecuted his parents for child abuse and endangerment. This being said, she wasn't worried about raising a son. It was childbirth and the days after that worried her the most. What worried her was the effects of 7 different quirks information running through her blood. These fears were just passing thoughts and meant nothing when a black-haired silver-eyed son was welcomed into the world on July 15, 2702, just after the clock struck 3 a.m. 13 The quirks of her husband, master, herself, the stockpiling, quirk giving, and each of the 4 other quirks within One for All were present in some manner in her baby boy. She believed that the color that was in the stars that represented the previous holders, that she had seen in visions, had blended into the magnificent silver that was his eyes. Toshinori was present in place of Izuku's father, who had been killed by Nana's nemesis and nemesis of each and every holder of One for All. The man that created her quirk, aside from her levitation that is, was the same man who took the life of her lifelong companion and husband. It is unknown what his ancient name is, but she knew there was one name that he called himself, and it is All for One. This came to mind because at the first moment she saw her son, she saw a baby boy that looked similar to the thief of quirks. Similar jet black curly hair as well as freckles, but in different spots on his face than on her nemesis. She had chalked it up to the fact that One for All had influenced his appearance, and her son looks like the younger twin sibling of the nameless quirk thief. 66. Mother? Are you all right? Nana looked at the small child before looking at her adopted son. It's nothing, Toshi, just a bad memory. She smiled as the baby in her hands tried to give a toothless smile of its own to mimic his own mother. Have you decided on a name for him yet? Nana had stopped to think of this before beginning a small verbal self-thought process. If I'm thinking of this logically, maybe I should use a name that my late husband would have liked. Should I use a name that signifies him as one of the predecessors or of One for All itself? No, I don't want someone to get the wrong idea and force him into danger unknowingly. Perhaps something happy or such that could mean him to be a kind-hearted boy. Cool. Mother, you're in one of your word vomits again. Nana stopped when Toshinori patted her shoulder to get her out of her self-evaluation of what she should name her son. Not to mention her infant child is reaching up for the kanji of the word mutter that had manifested in thin air. Sorry. She stopped for the child to look at her sideways, waiting for her answer. At that moment, her mind found the perfect name for the little freckled boy in her arms. I have the perfect name for him, Izuku. Toshi smiled at his mother to see her smiling at her little child. That's a great name. Hello Izuku, I'm your older brother Toshinori and your soon-to-be master. But you can just call me Toshi for now. Wait, what do you mean by master? Oh. Well, by the time he is old enough I probably could return the favor and give him One for All. Toshinori says with his voice petering out towards the end. You're either a good judge of character or very naive. He's only 25 minutes old. Toshinori held the back of his head in worry before a little Izuku reached for his older brother. But I think Izuku doesn't mind if you're naive. They shared a laugh as they continued to rest. Years had gone by after like a flash with Izuku growing up happy and healthy. Soon, the day Nana was worried most of came. 4.5 years later, Mom, is it time yet? A little boy came running down a hall almost jumping for joy with his mother picking him up. Almost Izuku. Now let's fix your shirt, you buttoned it wrong. Nana laughed a little at her son's attempt to button his shirt with it showing how excited he was. Today was the day that Izuku would learn what his quirk was and would finally get the chance to make steps towards becoming a hero like his mother and older brother Toshinori, or should he say All Might. There we go. Now let's get going. Yay! Izuku began to put his shoes on with his mother helping him tie them before almost running out the door himself. Easy sweetie, the quirk doctor won't go anywhere. I know, I'm just so excited. I know, but being patient will make it even better in the end. Izuku agreed and tried to hold in his excitement the best a 4-year-old could. With that, the two made their way to the doctor's to find out his quirk. As they entered the waiting room, Izuku went over to a small section where a brown-haired girl was. Hello. Hi. Are you here to find out your quirk too? Yeah, my name is Izuku Shimura. Izuku held out his hand for the brown-haired girl to shake it. Mine's Ochako Uraraka. They sat down and began to play with the parents of the two watching them have a blast with happiness. Uraraka. Ochako honey, it's our turn. Ochako heard her mother call and got up to run to her. But before she did, she hugged Izuku as tight as she could. See you water, she went to her mother with Izuku smiling at what just happened. Ah, isn't that cute Izuku? You made a friend. Izuku turned to his mother who was sitting with Ochako's parents not that long ago. Don't worry. I made sure to get their contact info from her parents. We can see them again if you want. Izuku smiled at this before a nurse came out of the back to call for someone. Shimura? That's a sweetie. 64 Izuku got up and followed his mother into the back. After a few x-rays and some samples of blood taken to the little 4-year-old's worry, the doctor came back with the results. Well, we can guarantee your son has a quirk and a powerful one at that. Nana looked at the doctor confused. Can you give a little more information than just that it's powerful? Actually, we can. Your son has a very powerful electric-based quirk that allows him to not only control electricity, but it can also alter the electrical magnetic polarity on him and anything he uses it on. To put it simply, your boy can levitate with it if he trains it well enough. At the moment, we can see his quirk is also tied to his central nervous system, so be very cautious if he overuses it. Nana looked down at his son with him holding the biggest smile of his life. Mom, does this mean I can be a hero like you and big bro Toshi? Nana smiled while nodding. It does, but you have to work hard to be one. Izuku jumped for joy as his feet started to create electricity and hold him above the floor a few inches. Well, that's something interesting. The kid already found a way to mess with his own gravity. This is a good sign for him if he wants to be a hero. Nana smiled knowing her son will be able to become what he wants to be. 54 As they left, Izuku and his mother bumped into the Urarakas again. Izuku. Ochako ran to Izuku hugging him as hard as she could. Isn't that sweet honey, Ochako has a friend. Ochako's parents Tosa, Ochako's mother, and Maruki Uraraka, Ochako's father, began to laugh with the scene playing out. Why don't we get lunch together? I'm sure these two wouldn't mind it. The 5 of them agreed and went to a small little restaurant nearby. They began to learn of each other to find out they lived nearby each other and had absolutely no idea. This made the Urarakas a little happy since they explained they work rather long days at a construction site and worry that Ochako doesn't make enough friends of her own. If you want, I can look after Ochako while you're working. I'm sure these two wouldn't mind. Tosa began to worry about the offer thinking she's overstepping boundaries she shouldn't. Why, you don't have to do that, miss. Ochako isn't your daughter and you aren't obligated to do such a thing. Nonsense, it's not out of obligation. When I was a pro, I saved people because it was the right thing to do. The couple did not know what to say. This woman was saving them so much worry for their daughter for absolutely no reason than just to help. Maruki turned to Ochako to see her and Izuku drawing on a coloring board. 14. Ochako honey, how would you like to stay with Izuku and his mother during the day when you're off school? Her face lit up in excitement. I can pee-way with Izuku and Mo. That's right, sweetie. Would you like it? Ochako could not nod her head yes fast enough before hugging Izuku in excitement. Ah. The parents enjoyed watching this, knowing these two will probably be inseparable going forward in life. Little did they know, this would be more true than they thought possible. 232 1.5 years later, as time flew by with the Shimuras and Urarakas, the duo of Izuku and Ochako had become an inseparable pair. They had often played together, ate together, and trained their quirks together. It had gotten to a point that Tosa had made a few humor-fueled comments that Ochako and Izuku act no different than a married couple. The grown-ups had laughed at this, watching Izuku float a bit thanks to his mother's lessons on how to manage it. As they grew up, Ochako had realized she had the ability to take anything or anyone's gravitational pull off with small pads on her fingertips. She found this out by accident one day, pulling Izuku and nearly sending him into outer space. To say she panicked and hugged Izuku with tears in her eyes knowing she almost sent her friend into the stratosphere was an understatement. Her father Maruki had to let Ochako stay the night at the Shimuras due to her sadness. Izuku consoled her, saying she didn't do it on purpose and eventually made things a little better for everyone. Speaking of Izuku, he was able to add a little more to his abilities. He now could not only adjust how his electromagnetism on something works, he could also send electricity out to everyone's surprise. After doing one large amount of this though, Izuku needs to stop due to his quirk making him either slightly blind, deaf, or mute after. He didn't mind it though, since he knew it would get better one day. 23. Today was a rather special day for the Shimura house. Toshinori Yagi Shimura had mentioned to them that he was coming home today. After his graduation from UA when Izuku was about 4, Toshinori had left to go to America and study as a hero there. He felt bad leaving his family, but he wanted to be the best hero he could for both him and his family who he loves. He even made a pinky promise with little Izuku that he would become the greatest hero in America, then in Japan. He mastered the first part and became something that the world could rely on whenever he's around. Now he came home with high hopes and prepared to become Japan's #1. Nana and Izuku were just happy to see him again after so long. Izuku, let's go to the park to meet with Ochako. I told Toshi that we'll be there. Okay, Mom. Izuku got his shoes on and waited for his mother outside. He was excited today. Izuku was finally able to introduce Ochako to his brother. 3. As the two went to the park, Ochako had found her way to the park before them and waited where she normally met Izuku. Since it was a nice neighborhood with very little crime, Ochako was able to walk to the park alone with her mother telling her to stay exactly where she was to meet Izuku and his mother. She agreed and sat in a sandbox playing until she would see her friend. Look what we got here. Her fun was cut short by an ash blonde stomping on her sand castle with 2 others behind him. That's not nice, Bakugo, Ochako shouted at the blonde Katsuki Bakugo. She met him some time ago with Izuku around with him, instantly disliking her for being friends with Izuku. Before Izuku had his quirk, Bakugo was praised as someone who was going to be one of the greatest heroes. That all changed when he had to share the spotlight with Izuku, however. With this, Bakugo would regularly try to pick fights with Izuku and anyone who was around him. Fearing for their safety, most kids avoided Izuku so as to not enrage a boy that can literally light little stun bombs in his hands. 1. Where's Deku? Not here, round face. Ochako got up and made the maddest face she could. As a matter of fact, no, I'm waiting for Izuku and his mommy to come here. You think it's cute to talk like that? You sound stupid. And you need a spanking. Silence filled the area before Bakugo started to shake. Grr, nobody tells me what I need. He sent an explosion at Ochako to send her into the sand with a few cuts on her. She began to cry from the pain as Bakugo walked up to her with explosions going off in his hands. You want to fight, round face? You got one. He went for another explosion for Bakugo to go back a few feet. He looked over to see Izuku running over with electricity in his hands. Ochin, are you okay? Izuku went over to see if Ochako was okay before standing in front of her. 22. You wanna fight now, Deku? Bakugo slammed his fist into his hand to make an explosion with 2 kids behind him getting ready to fight. I'm warning you, this is between me and round face. But out. Picking on people is wrong, Kachin. If you do that, you can't be a hero. Izuku got into a fighting stance with Bakugo ready to fight as well. It's 3-on-2 deku, do the math and know when you're beat. Then let me even the score. Bakugo saw a giant shadow cast over him to make him slightly turn behind him and see a buff blonde man smiling down on him. Now what was that about 3-on-2? Last I checked, it's only you. Bakugo looked around to see his two cronies running away in fear. You have two options right now, son. Run away, or get an almighty spanking before being sent home to your mother. Bakugo was mean, but he wasn't stupid. He knew he didn't stand a chance and ran for it. This isn't over, Deku, you hear me? 78. That'll learn him. The buff blonde looked down and smiled. Izuku. How have you been, little brother? Izuku was able to get a better look at the blonde before smiling. Toshi. Izuku ran to hug his older brother Toshinori as he picked him up to get a better look at him. Look how big you've gotten, Izuku. Keep this up, and you'll be bigger than me. Toshi started to laugh as Izuku remembered Ochako and got down. Ochan. He ran up to see her still crying. I've be okay, I-chan. Who's the big pusin? This is my brother Toshi. You know, the guy in the pictures you saw. Ochako looked up for Toshi to smile at her. You must be young Ochako Uraraka. It's a pleasure to meet you. Mother and Izuku has told me so much about you, little missy. Woo? You big you than daddy. Ha 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 ha. I guess I am a little on the larger size. All Might laughed at this while Nana finally found them. 79. There you are, Izuku, and I see you found Toshi. Nana looks over to see Ochako covered in dirt with a few scrapes. Ochako, what happened? You're covered in dirt and you have scapes all over you. It was Bakugo I-chan's mom. He was being a meanie. He was. What made him hurt you though? He was picking on me foul talking like this and I told him he needed a spanking. Nana and Toshi tried to hold in a laugh as they picked up the two kids. Toshi offered to put the two on his shoulders as they went home to the kids' delight. Once they got home, Nana took Ochako into the bathroom to clean her up while Toshi was telling Izuku about America and his journeys. Once Ochako was cleaned and bandaged, Nana dropped her off next to Izuku to work on lunch for the group while listening to Toshi's story. 1. Once lunch was ready, Nana shouted for everyone to come in. Lunch. They all came to the table with Toshi trying to help the best he could. Allow me. He tries to take the plate of sandwiches from Nana for her to sock him in the gut. I may not be as strong as I used to be, but I can still sock you a good one if you step out of line. Now sit your butt down so we can eat. Wheeze yes, mother. Toshi sat down for the two kids to start laughing at him. When lunch was done, the four spent the day outside with Izuku and Ochako playing while Nana and Toshi started talking. So you're back for good, huh? Yeah. I have enough of a handle on OFA where I think I can hold my own in a fight with him. Nana bit her lip knowing her adopted son will have to fight a monster in human skin and powerless to stop him. Just don't do something stupid like fall for his words or something. Use your head please, for Izuku's sake. He sees you as his brother and tries to embody the type of hero you want to be. So for his and my sake, please come back alive. Toshi saw tears in Nana's eyes before answering. I will. I'll stop him and return alive, mother, for Izuku's and your sake. 82. As hours passed, Ochako's parents came to pick her up and be introduced to Toshi. After a hug and kiss on Izuku's cheek by Ochako, the three of them left with Izuku yawning. Toshi held his little brother in his arms as he brought him to his room and tucked him in. Izuku fell asleep in a matter of seconds with Nana and Toshi looking at the little green-haired boy in the bed. Toshi, do you still plan to give Izuku OFA when the time comes? I do. Nana clenched her fists in anger. Please don't let him fight this monster. It breaks my heart knowing you have to. I can't stand the thought of little Izuku having to as well. Ever since he took yours and Izuku's father from us, I just... I don't want either one of you to go after someone like this. I'm scared he's gonna take the ones in my life I care for more than my own life again. I don't think I can handle that. Sigh, I know. I don't like it as much as you, but this is where we stand right now. Toshi hugs his mother holding her head in his chest. I promise you this. I'll defeat AFO, I'll live, and Izuku won't have to face him. We'll all live long happy lives with nobody dying on us before their time. I swear to you. Nana wanted to believe these words and thanked her son before they went their separate ways to their own bedrooms for the night. 17. With how Izuku's quirk works, I wonder if the electricity he produces can affect the brain if it hits the head. Perhaps if he was lucky and landed a strike on the base of the head just where the neck connects with the brain stem, it can sever the connection the person needs with their quirk. It's a long shot and that small target would be a difficult blow to land, but I need to test my theory. Maybe the tyranny of all for one will come to an end with nobody else having to die. For this to happen, he needs to train to aim for headshots with lightning bolts. We would also need to see if that would be possible to do in the first place. The death row inmates at Tartarus could work, but the controversy behind it would be immense. This would have to be done in secret with only as much people that know of One for All, knowing of this as well. Forced quirk erasure. If the villains figured this out, it could spell the end of heroism as we know it. Nana thinks to herself as she lays in her bed awake deep in thought. She begins to get up and opens a drawer. She places a small vial of blood that Toshinori had given her to be used in the worst-case scenario where he fails during their battle. As a safety measure, Nana had agreed to accept the role of ninth successor if it happened before Izuku was old enough. She didn't like to think this, but they were facing a monster that was as cunning as he was dangerous and had to take precautions in case of the worst. I don't want history to repeat itself with you, Toshi, but please come back alive when the time comes. That's all I want from you. You can fail against AFO, but please just don't die. I don't think me or Izuku could handle losing you. Third person POV. 1. Years had passed for the Shimuras with Izuku growing in the blink of an eye. He was now 14 with a strong hold of his quirk to not only use it for tactical use, but also for combat. Over some time, Izuku had learned many things about his quirk that allowed him to do some amazing things with it. By just hitting someone with a bolt of lightning, he could shock their nervous system, mess with their bodies to become akin to magnets, or even take their ability to use their quirks. His mother forbade use of this part except in training until he got older and into UA, since it was a very handy power that could be envied by evil. Because of this, Izuku held one of his most powerful aces from everyone. Ochako had grown up as well. With her time around Izuku, she learned of many useful things she could do with her quirk and obtained some help with her taking her own gravity off thanks to Nana. As they grew up, however, something changed in them. It wasn't something small. It was an emotion. They had grown stronger between each other. It was one of love for the other which they did not fully understand or want to jeopardize their friendship over. As such, they accepted this and kept these emotions below the surface for the other. 5. Today started as a normal day for the duo, eating breakfast in Izuku's home and having some small talk before they had to leave. So Izuku, you and Ochako got any plans today? Actually, we were planning on working out a combination for our quirks. Yeah, Izuku and I were thinking of making a way for us to make things orbit around us that I make weightless. Ah, so like asteroids around some planets. Sounds like it could be handy. Nana smirked at them before correcting herself. I meant, did you two have any plans for a date today? This comment made the two teens go completely red and cover their faces. Mom, Mrs. Shimura. Ha 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 ha, sorry, but you two are just hilarious to tease about this. Why don't you two just accept the love you have for the other and see where it goes? Because we're just friends, Mom. Izuku grabbed his backpack before walking towards the door. Ochako, we're gonna be late. Coming. They practically bolted out the door with Nana smiling at them. They're so gonna be a couple. The only question is, when are one of them gonna get the guts to say what they want to the other? Nana took the plates the two were eating off of to bring them to the sink while thinking of a possible grandchild in the future from them. When I get them together, all I have to do is find someone for that musclehead I call my oldest son. With all his fame, he can't land one girlfriend I can pick on him with. 26. As Nana thought of this, Izuku and Ochako were walking in an awkward silence. They weren't foreign to Izuku's mother's acts of saying they're a couple, but today got to them for some reason. They decided to take a shortcut through an alley to get to school earlier and take their minds off of the conversation this morning. Let me go, you jerks. They start to hear someone shouting in the alley for them to start investigating. "Common honey, give us a smile." They looked to see three guys talking to a girl wearing a private school uniform who was not happy in the slightest. One of them held her arms with another very close to her face. She spat on the guy for him to get mad and slap her across the face. "Filthy bitch. Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Izuku shouted to get all four of their attention. Well, looks like we've got us a little hero. Get outta here kid if you know what's good for ya." The thug that slapped the girl made his hands into knives to point at Izuku. "We wouldn't want someone to get hurt, now would we?" 23. Izuku glared the man down and smiled. "You should heed your own advice. I'm not the normal middle schooler ya punk. Now I'm gonna ask you one last time, let the girl go and leave." Make me. The man with knives for fingers charged at Izuku for him to dodge and sock the idiot in his stomach. He fell to the ground with the others looking at him in anger. Who's next? The man who wasn't holding the girl turned his hands into rock and came at Izuku next. "You little brat." Ochako came around Izuku to get behind the thug and suplex him into the ground to knock him out. "What the hell are these kids?" The third guy panicked and allowed the girl a chance to step on his foot to free her. She ran behind Izuku and Ochako with Izuku getting into a fighting stance. The guy started to shake before Izuku decided to try a trick he wanted to. Boo. Ah. The thug ran away screaming like a little girl knowing that he didn't stand a chance against one of the duo, let alone both. "That'll teach ya." Izuku sent a text to his mother after this saying what happened for her to mention that she'll get some cops there to arrest the unconscious too. "Are you okay miss?" Izuku came over with Ochako to talk to the girl. "I am, thanks for the save." 28. Our pleasure. Ochako smiled while answering with them both getting a better look at the girl. She was rather tall with black hair and onyx eyes. The most awkward thing about her however was how developed she was. She didn't look much older than Izuku and Ochako, in fact, she was younger than Izuku by a few months, but she had the figure of someone in their 20s and seemed to have some more room to grow. "What are your names?" Izuku and Ochako were pulled out of their thoughts while this is said. "Sorry, my name's Izuku Shimura. And I'm Ochako Uraraka. It is nice to meet you too, my name's Momo Yaoyorozu." She smiled at them with her phone vibrating. She looked at it and realized the time. "I'm sorry to cut this short, but I need to get going." As she left, Momo had thought of their names and smiled. They seem like nice people. I wonder if they're dating. As she left, Izuku looked at the time to realize they were gonna be late as well. "Ocha, we gotta get a move on as well. We're gonna be late if we don't." "Right." 10. As they ran, Izuku and Ochako stayed rather close with some of Izuku's thoughts thinking on what his future would be like as a hero. He was technically Momo's savior with Ochako back there, but he questioned what heroics had in store for them. "I wonder if me and Ocha can still be together." He dwelled on the word, together, before getting red with embarrassment. "Don't think that brain. We're just friends. Nothing more, nothing less." He stopped in his thoughts when he felt electricity in his hand. He looked down to notice his hand was holding something. It was Ochako's hand. "Izuku, what are you doing?" Ochako asked this while being rather flushed by his actions. Sorry, I'll let go." Izuku tried to let go with it not working. "What's wrong?" I can't let go." "What?" Ochako heard this and started to panic. She pulled with all her might with Izuku for it to do absolutely nothing. They looked at their hands to freak out at this accident. How are we gonna deal with school like this? 9. Few hours later, Izuku and Ochako had sat in the nurse's office not knowing where to go with Nana coming when the nurse called. Very strange indeed. What happened? Nana questioned the nurse with her giving the best prognosis she could. From what I can tell, Shimura had produced a strange magnetic pull on his and Uraraka's hands to make them stick. Will it be a problem? Not to worry, it should wear off in about a day or so. The nurse walked away to leave the three alone. So how did this happen? Izuku and Ochako looked at the other before shrugging. I don't know. 1 second we were fine, then my quirk activated and did this. Nana looked at this with confusion before answering. Your desks are apart from each other, right? They both nodded to make the former pro sigh. I'm gonna get your work for today and say what happened. Neither one of you can function like this in school, especially with Izuku's dominant hand holding onto your left one. Ochako. They thought about the predicament and nodded. 8. While leaving, Izuku and Ochako had gotten in the back of Nana's car with them both trying to avoid eye contact. So what were you thinking about when this happened? Izuku and Ochako turned red while this was said to make it easy to guess what it was for Nana. I wonder if this will work out for what they need to say to the other. It's irrelevant now, but maybe you two should talk about it sometime today in case it happens again to you both. When Nana pulled into the driveway, she let the two out before lowering the window. I need to work on something with an old friend today, so you kids are gonna be alone until tonight. If you need anything, there should be some snacks and some instant stuff in the cabinets. Izuku and Ochako nodded before Nana pulled her head back in the car. Oh, and before I forget, Nana pokes her head out and smiles at Izuku. If you get intimate with each other while I'm gone, make sure to use protection. Mom, Mrs. Shimura. Nana laughed as she rolled her window up and left the duo alone. An uneasy silence rolled in with them both looking at the other. Sorry this had to happen to you. No need. I know it was an accident. They walked inside and began to sit on the couch and work on the stuff they were missing before turning on the TV to pass some time. 33. Time skip to the evening. I'm home. Nana opened the door to see the two teenagers working on homework in the living room. Hi Mom. So what did you kids do today? Nothing really. Just did schoolwork until Izuku couldn't handle writing with his left hand anymore and watching TV until he was able to again. Ochako mentioned this while biting on the back of her mechanical pencil trying to solve a problem. Anything good you two found? Nothing really. Just a documentary on the production of chocolates with most of the time channel surfing. Izuku stated while trying to write the best he could not use his dominant hand. So what did you two do when you had to use the bathroom? They both blushed at this before Izuku spoke. We used the sink and shower to block out the sound and blindfolded the other when one of us had to. Izuku says this with him trying to avoid the fact this happened with Ochako submerging her head into her hand. 21. Alright, I'm not gonna pry any farther since you both had a problematic day. Nana went into the kitchen to start dinner with someone knocking at the door. Izuku, can you get that? Got it. Izuku and Ochako walked towards the door to open it. Hello Izuku and Ochako. How have you two been? Toshi. Izuku hugged his brother with Ochako hugging him as well. It's good to see you two again. Toshi stops and notices the two with their hands locked to ask. By any chance, did you two become a couple? You both have your hands locked. They both go red with embarrassment as they explain what happened. It's nothing like that. My quirk just acted on its own and stuck us together. Why yeah, we aren't a couple. Yet at Lee what am I thinking? Who's at the door Izuku? Nana came out of the kitchen to come to the door and notice the buff blonde on the doorstep. Toshi, how are you? I've been well, but I wanted to introduce someone to you too. 4. Toshinori stepped to the side to show a green-haired woman with matching green eyes. Everyone, this is Inko. We've been dating for about 2 years and I thought it was time for her to meet you. Hello, my name is Inko Midoriya. It's an honor to meet you. Inko bowed as something made Nana investigate her image a little more heavily. Quote. You didn't date her for a mother complex, did you? Both looked at each other before looking back at Nana for an answer. The hair. She points at her hairstyle to make both realize what she meant. How sad. My oldest son and the #1 hero has complex about his own mother. Where did I go wrong? Nana joked with this while Toshinori tried to explain himself. Mother, that isn't it. I didn't even see the resemblance until you pointed it out. I fell for her kind nature and calm demeanor and not the fact she looked like you. Nana began to laugh with everyone else laughing at Toshinori's expense. He only held his head down as this happened. Anyway, dinner's ready if you two want to sit down and eat with us. I made plenty. Thank you. I apologize if I'm intruding, Mrs. Shimura. Don't worry about it. I'm just glad my dunce of a son finally has a girlfriend. 85. They all sat together eating while talking, with Inko telling a little about herself and how her and Toshinori met. Apparently, she works as a doctor in a local hospital around his home and had met him prior to dating. Toshinori came in one day to handle a gash he had from a seriously painful fight, and the two just started talking. When he was able to leave, Toshinori asked if they could see each other again, with Inko giving him her number and telling him she was free Friday if he wanted to see a movie or have dinner along that line. Not long after, they were dating. As the night came to an end, Toshinori and Inko said their goodbyes, with Izuku and Ochako looking down at their hands. "So, how do we get ready for bed like this?" Ochako asked this with their hands still strongly locked together. "I guess you're both gonna have to sleep like that." Nana pointed this out, with the two of them accepting this and walking to Izuku's room. "Just don't have too much fun. I may want grandkids, but you're still both in middle school." This comment made the two produce steam off their heads while they both go a dark shade of red. 12. The two laid in Izuku's bed looking at the ceiling, with only their minds going at their situation. "Hey Izuku, what if this lasts into tomorrow? I don't know, but I'd rather it be you I'm stuck together with than anyone else." Ochako looked over to Izuku, scared of what he meant. "Why, you mean cause we're friends, right?" Izuku took a deep sigh before speaking. "Might as well say this. Now's as good of a time as any. Ochako, there's something I wanted to tell you for a while." She knew this was something serious since he addressed her in a serious tone of voice. "For a while, I've been keeping this feeling for you down because of our friendship. I didn't want to ruin what we already had because of something I wasn't fully sure of, but here it is. I may, kinda sorta, like you. As in, love." Izuku beat around the bush since he was afraid of what she would say. Ochako held a deep red blush while hugging Izuku. It's okay if you don't feel that way. We can just pretend I never said to." 5:36. Ochako cut him short by pushing her lips onto his. As they parted, Ochako looked at Izuku with her face rather flushed. "I think I sorta like you too. Love the first mean." Izuku smiled at this, with their hands finally letting go, as if his quirk was trying to get them to say this to each other. They looked down to see their hands free and hugged one another. "So, does this make us a couple now?" Ochako asked in confusion as Izuku thought about it as well. "I guess it does. Do you have any problems with that?" he asked, making sure there wasn't any doubt with this. "Not one bit. But can I still sleep in here even if we aren't stuck together?" Izuku nodded as they fell asleep with Ochako on top of Izuku. In the hall, Nana heard the conversation to smile at the act. "Good for the both of you. You both deserve this happiness." Nana walked to her bedroom yawning to get ready for bed herself. 9. Meanwhile, at the Yaoyorozu's estate. 16. "So this boy had black hair and was able to save you from thugs?" "Yes, father." Momo had told her parents about Izuku and Ochako's daring rescue of her, to which they seemed rather relieved this happened. "But Momo, why were you in an alley to begin with?" "I asked the driver if I could walk to school since it was a nice day. He advised against it, but allowed it after a little coercing on my end. While walking, I was grabbed by one of them and brought into the alley. I didn't expect someone to do that since crime in the city was rather low compared to others, but this was my mistake for letting my guard down too much." Momo's father pinched the bridge of his nose before speaking. "I can't blame you for that, but you should have stayed in the car to not cause attention to yourself. Not counting the fact you're the next head of the Yaoyorozu franchise, we care about you, Momo. You're our only child after all, and we don't want to see you get hurt. So please use a little more caution when doing these acts and rationalize your thoughts a little more, please." "Yes, father." Momo bowed at her father while he pulled up his phone to type something in. "So what were the names of the two that saved you?" "The girl's name was Ochako Uraraka, and the boy's was Izuku Shimura if I remember correctly. I don't think they used their quirks either, if that helps at all." Momo's father typed their names in before putting his phone away. "I'll do a little research on these two and find a way to formally thank them for their heroic efforts. I'll let you know what I find out, Momo." "Yes, father." Momo bowed one last time to her parents before walking up to her room. Her father started to question the names he hears with some interest. "Shimura, where have I heard that name before?" A week after the discussion with his daughter had occurred, Momo's father Momo Yaoyorozu had looked into the name Shimura and was surprised at what he had found. Shimura was the surname of the previous number 1 hero and symbol of justice. Nana Shimura, or as the public knew her, Paragon. This gave the older man an idea. He was always one to think of ways to further his influence first and not of how his actions would affect those around him. He had called his butler into his office and had him scribe a letter for the widowed former pro-heroine. Once his butler had finished the letter, he had it stamped with the Yaoyorozu wax seal and sent to the Shimura home in East Mustafu. The letter had entailed a plan to further both of their family's power and wealth in wedding the only son of Nana Shimura to his daughter Momo Yaoyorozu. He sat back in his chair and envisioned the future that is to come if she agrees to this arrangement between the two. Drinking from a 40-year-old bottle of scotch, a smile graces the older businessman's face as he leans back in his chair. 15. When the post had arrived in the mail a couple days later, Nana was surprised that she had received a letter from the 5th most wealthy family in the entire world. She carefully cut the letter open with a letter knife before unfolding the parchment and reading the letter aloud, but barely audible to anyone aside from herself. 4. To Nana Shimura, though we have never personally met, an incident the past week has brought to my attention something that had happened between your son and my only daughter. Nothing nefarious of the sort had taken place, and in fact, it was quite the opposite. Your son Shimura Izuku had saved the innocence of my daughter from some would-be rapists and common street thugs. I wish to meet with him and arrange a marriage between him and my daughter in a quirk marriage before they enroll at UA University. In this letter is a notice of consolation to an extent of 1.5 billion yen for the loss of your husband Shimura Toseki before your son's birth. With a quirk that is literal power and my daughter's creation ability, the two quirks will combine to make an even more powerful creation ability in their offspring, making their abilities akin to that of the gods in ancient mythos. Do consider my request to have these two wed, and if you wish to speak with me and my daughter in person, save the wax seal on the back of the letter and hand it to the gate operator at my estate when you come to see me. 27. Best regards, Yaoyorozu Shiromo. Nana was confused upon reading this. Why does he want to have their children married to one another simply because her son saved his child from a street thug? She had thought that it was for some sort of political gain in a way, but then disregarded the idea. Nana couldn't make a decision for her son against his will, especially now that he had started a relationship with his childhood best friend Ochako Uraraka. Something in her mind, however, gave her an interesting idea. She loved her only biological son with all her heart and wanted him to be happy more than anything. Nearing her mid-50s soon, she knew that it wouldn't be long before either one of her sons blessed her with grandchildren, and maybe that was the notion behind her idea. In her mind she wanted Izuku, Ochako and Momo to be together simply for her to be one grandmother for all the grandbabies. She smiled at this idea, getting to spoil a bunch of Shimura munchkins while their parents were away, and decided to hand the letter to Izuku and Ochako, telling them of what Shiromo had asked of her. 43. The door opened to the sound of two people walking in. Mom, we're home. Izuku had come inside with Ochako to notice his mother looking at a letter before asking. Mom. Nana got out of her daze to see Izuku and Ochako looking at her. Sorry, I was thinking of something. Nana looked at the letter one last time before speaking to Izuku. Izuku, do you remember the girl you and Ochako saved a few weeks ago? Yeah, I think her name was Momo Yaoyorozu, Izuku said in asking to make sure he was correct, to which Ochako nodded. Well, you saved the daughter of one of the richest people in the world. PFF'd. We saved who? Both had done a spit take of their tea on the other and went wide-eyed as this was said. To make it even crazier, her father wants to put you and her in an arranged quirk marriage before the end of high school. The room went silent as this was said. Does he know that I'm already dating Ochako? I don't think he does. Ochako held on to Izuku, having a bit of an agitated face on her. Nobody is taking Izuku away from me without a fight. Look, we can just explain the incident when we go see him. I was thinking of maybe doing a trip there with you so you can speak to him and give Mr. Yaoyorozu your own idea on this. Izuku looked at Ochako and nodded, saying he will. That weekend, as the three of them get to the gates, they marvel at the enormous size of it, with Ochako starting to twirl around. We're literally meeting someone that lives in a mansion. She nearly falls over if Izuku didn't catch her. Easy there, Ochako. It's still too early to fall head over heels. Can I help you? A man with a scar over his left side that looked like he was cut looks at them with an indifferent glare. Yes, I obtained a note from Mr. Momo Yaoyorozu about a quirk marriage that he wanted to happen between his daughter and my son. The man took the note to see the stamp on the back. He handed it back to Nana before bowing and opening the gates. I shall inform the master you are here. Please follow the road to get to the main house. Thank you. The three bowed before walking up the road. The trek itself was rather intense since it was almost a mile-long walk until they got to the door. 11. As they got to the main building, a few maids and butlers were there to greet them with the door opening to a man with dark hair and a woman with similar hair color. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Shimura, and you must be Izuku. Why, yes, sir. My name is Izuku Shimura. It's an honor to be in your home, sir. Izuku bowed with the man smiling. Quite the manners on you. As this was said, Shiromo looked at Ochako with curiosity. So who is this woman? I'm sorry for the late introductions, sir. My name is Ochako Uraraka. Right now, I am dating Izuku. The smile on Shiromo didn't disappear. It actually did not drop, saying he wasn't surprised. Why don't we head into the main hall to speak? The two walked into the main hall with Izuku, Nana, and Ochako following. As they got to a few seats, they had gotten comfy before getting down to business. To make a long story short, I would wish for you and Momo to wed by the end of your 3rd year of high school, Izuku. I'm sorry, sir, but that would be impossible at the moment. Izuku grabbed Ochako's hand before saying why. I am currently in a relationship with Ochako here and do not wish to get rid of it. Ochako smiled, knowing it would take more than the ideal of an arranged quirk marriage to make Izuku falter. I could understand that, but I do not wish to take no for an answer to this. Shiromo was not wishing to give up and took out a small note folder. Ochako Uraraka, daughter of Tosa and Maruki Uraraka. Occupations of construction workers of a 3rd-grade construction company. Life must have not been easy for you growing up. I can see why you would not wish to let go of someone like Izuku. That was impolite. Izuku was getting agitated with this as it sounded like Shiromo was belittling his girlfriend for something her parents worked so hard even before she was born to deal with. 1. My apologies if it sounded rude, Ms. Uraraka, but I wanted to just point out I am rather knowledgeable about both of you. Now I have a proposition for you, Ms. Uraraka. Your parents' business is having issues and now are being faced with losing your boyfriend. What if you stay at his side and Momo joins him at his other hand? Everyone stared at him for a few moments as if he had grown a second head. I am willing to accept Shimura Izuku to marry you both with your consent. If you do, I will not only ask your parents to become business partners with me, in that all construction of my factories and facilities will be orchestrated by them and them alone, but you can also keep your relationship as it is with only my daughter joining you. Silence was in the air as he said this. What does your daughter think of this? Everyone looked at Izuku as he said this. I won't agree to this if your daughter doesn't want to. If she is content with this along with Ochako, I'm fine with this. But if one or neither wants to, then this is a no. I want Yaoyorozu Momo's opinion on this, and even if she agrees to it, I wouldn't feel right if Ochako and myself didn't fall in love with her as she would with us if we are to be married together. Shiromo stood up and agreed to this. Let's ask her then. They followed him to a door that opened to an enormous room with Momo inside it reading an encyclopedia. Momo, we would like you to discuss some things with Izuku and Ochako. She looks up to place a bookmark where she was before standing to greet her father. 28. Yes, father, what would you like me to discuss with them? Well, Izuku would like to make certain you are okay with the quirk marriage I had requested between the two of you before we progress any farther. So as a form of goodwill to his sincerity, you three are going to speak and see how each of you feel about this. Yes, father. Izuku and Ochako went into the room with the door shutting behind them. The room was silent as they just stood there unsure what to do. So are you, okay, with this? Izuku tried to find words to help this situation a bit with Momo shrugging her shoulders. If it helps my family, then I am all right with it. But are you fine with this? It's okay to want your family's interests at heart, but you need to be okay with this type of decision. Marriage means something. It's the merging of two people in a very serious relationship that shouldn't be taken lightly. Momo sat on her bed grabbing a pillow to hug. To be honest, not fully. 3. Izuku and Ochako sat on the bed next to her as she spoke. I want to help my family any possible way I can, but I also do not wish to do something as serious as this without first having the ability to choose someone I love myself. Momo put her head into her pillow before speaking. I just want to know if this is right before going into a deep relationship. But I will most likely not if things go the way they are. Izuku thought about this with Ochako going to hug Momo. To be honest, I thought you were trying to steal Izuku from me before coming here. I was angry at you and wanted nothing to do with this. But after hearing you say you would rather take it slower, I understand that you aren't a bad person. Thank you for being a nice person, Momo. Izuku watched the two act kindly towards each other and hear what Ochako had to say before getting an idea in his head. 12. Yaoyorozu, would you be able to give a better answer for this if you had some time dating us? I think so. Ocha, would you be able to say if you can keep this relationship if you were given a little time before jumping into this? Yeah, I think so. Then why not do that? They both looked at Izuku as if he was crazy. We'll date for 2 years with each of us getting to know each other better. When the last year of high school happens, we can tell your father if we want to pursue this or not and go from there. Ochako and Momo nodded before walking out of the room to see a man motioning in the direction of where everyone was. When they found the adults, they were speaking of the possible future with Izuku, Momo, and Ochako looking at Shiromo. Have you three decided on this? Yes, we have, sir. We would like a little time before jumping to this decision. If you wouldn't mind for us to have our final answer to you by the 3rd year of high school, we will try this relationship and see how it works. I won't leave Ochako for Momo, but I won't force Momo into this if she doesn't want to. Nana smiled at her son's mature comment as this was said. I guess I was asking for too much directly off the bat. Very well, you three will date until the first day of your 3rd year in high school and we will make a decision from there. Does anyone have any objections? Everyone shakes their heads. Then we agree. I hope you both find out if this is the best option soon. 13. 1 week later. After that, Momo had given both Izuku and Ochako her phone number and told them that she would text them her answer when she had made up her mind. It didn't take long and the next morning the two woke up to an identical text on both of their phones. It was asking that they meet at an aquarium and spend the day around the city enjoying the shops, a movie, as well as the museum and most importantly the food. When Toshi found out about this he slapped his little brother on the shoulder in congratulation and then poked at him for having a mother complex after being shown a picture of Momo and seeing the resemblances between her and Nana despite the two not being related whatsoever. Nana smacked him for it before saying good luck on their date that weekend. Now it is the day of the date itself and Izuku is visibly nervous. He doesn't want to give one or the other too much attention to garner jealousy from the two women. Ochako had said that it was fine that she got more attention than her today but it didn't help Izuku's case much. Izuku and Ochako get dressed and ready to go before meeting Momo near her estate not long after. 27. After greeting her a good morning and making their way towards town, the three of them start off their date heading to a crepe stand for lunch. Knowing that Ochako had always been a fan of sweets and making guesses about how Momo's quirk works, he bought the two girls chocolate and strawberry crepes with Ochako's having green tea chocolate to differentiate between the two of them. Momo was surprised to see that Izuku had not only guessed correctly on what kind of food she prefers but also on how accurate his assessment of her quirk was without even seeing how it works. She thanked him politely by last name before taking the crepe from him and taking a seat by the little shop the stand was parked in front of. The three ate in relative silence enjoying the complex flavors of the crepes they had bought before bidding farewell to the shopkeep and making their way along the town. The next place was the aquarium where Ochako had shown her colors of her childish demeanor in excitedly running between all the exhibits and staring at all the fish, making faces at them and even getting a grouper to imitate her. This got Momo to start to laugh and smile seeing the way she acted. Izuku had shown Momo his knowledge of all the fish pointing out each type as they walked by. Being a good judge of character Izuku had come to see that Momo is a very intelligent woman and probably would be attracted to someone of similar intelligence. He wasn't all too concerned with swooping her off her feet on the first date and breaking his and Ochako's bed. his focus was more on becoming her friend first, in being someone she can relate to. Momo was impressed by Izuku's knowledge of the aquatic world admittedly, and was genuinely enjoying herself on the date of theirs. What truly made the afternoon was when Ochako had found a rather fat seal plush that looked as if it was wider than she is tall. Something about the plush toy's close-eyed smile gravitated the zero-gravity quirk user to it. Momo thought the plush seal was quite adorable as well, and when Ochako gave Izuku and her the puppy eyes to get the thing, she didn't hesitate to purchase the 15 kilograms plush seal that was bigger than Ochako's entire body. 37. After bringing their souvenirs back to their home, they had decided to continue their date, going to the museum next as well as gardens and butterfly sanctuary. Momo especially had an immense fascination with the shiny and precious minerals of the museum's many exhibits, and had spent almost 2 hours explaining to her soon-to-be lovers all the ins and outs of every single gemstone there, by creating them of course. As soon as she began to use her quirk, Izuku seemingly manifested his hero book out of nowhere and began feverishly writing on the page, to the point the pencil started to create smoke from moving on the paper so fast. When he was done, there was a perfect drawing of Momo's creation ability of her creating a lattice-cut amethyst gemstone in her hand. She giggled at Izuku's fascination and went on to explain that to use her quirk she has to expose some of the skin on her body to make larger objects. After saying this, it wasn't long before Izuku had drawn up a rendition of a practical yet tasteful version of a hero costume for Momo. She was even impressed that the 2D iteration of herself had the same body proportions, and blushed slightly at this. This brought the topic of their many meaningless conversations to the topic of quirks, specifically that she had yet to ask what theirs did. Ochako explained hers when they went to the space exhibit and showed Momo how it worked by levitating a small model of the Earth and Moon around herself using her gravity quirk. Momo was impressed to say the least, including the fact that the little models orbited each other like the real deals did. Izuku decided to do something special to show her his quirk and wanted to keep it a secret till that evening. 16. After getting dinner at a shoreline dinner by a small beach that was slightly cluttered with trash, Izuku led the two women to the water's edge and watched as the sun went down below the horizon. He then said he had to wait until it was night, otherwise it wouldn't be much of a show. This confused Momo slightly as she cocked her head to the side and asked what he meant. Ochako shushed her and handed her a bucket of popcorn and 3D glasses she got from somewhere. After seeing both of the girls get themselves situated on the shoreline, Izuku subtly channels his quirk through his body, allowing him to levitate just slightly off the ground. From their point of view, neither Momo or Ochako could tell that he was airborne, but Ochako could see his hair standing on end due to the static electricity of his quirk. He gives them a confident smile before walking towards the water, then onto the water's surface. This action widens both Ochako's and Momo's eyes to the size of Momo's breasts, which is saying something. Seeing the shock on their faces, no pun intended, Izuku chuckles to himself as the night sky's clouds begin to circle above him. He closes his eyes, takes a deep breath and opens them again, revealing a brilliant blue-green color that illuminates the area. Lightning starts to stream from his eyes like he's some Nordic god, as the air itself seems to taste of ozone. The immediate vicinity around Izuku sparks with random discharges of his lightning, and the water bowls out, making a perfect hemisphere beneath him. He raises his right hand up slightly before snapping his fingers, turning the water to steam and creating a storm cloud that envelops him. 17. This miniature storm arcs with amble crawlers and cloud-to-air lightning of all colors in the spectrum. Red sprites arc from the top of the tiny supercell into the night air as a small tornado forms beneath his feet. Momo and Ochako have been left speechless at this display of the elegance that is Mother Nature, or in this case, Father Nature. Lightning strikes the water and an orb pulsing with power floats up from the surface and orbits him. With each strike another orb follows until 4 of them orbit his body. For the first time in human history, ball lightning has now been witnessed. The orbs orbit the storm like electrons in an atom, going around in unique orbitals moving on all axes around the storm. A small crowd has formed to witness the display of electricity and weather that are at Izuku's will. The small tornado dances as elegantly as a ballet dancer before retreating back into the storm as it shrinks. The 4 orbs stop in a straight line before flattening out, creating a rod of sorts. When the cloud vanishes, it shows Izuku with glowing yellow eyes and a sword made of pure lightning in his hands. He thrusts it into the sky and a massive thunder crack is heard which causes the viewers to jump slightly hearing it. He places a hand at the top of the sword before condensing it to the size of a small coin before throwing it towards the sky. When it reaches the clouds it bursts and shows what looks like a Tesla coil in the heavens illuminating the night sky with brilliant yellows, purples, reds and blues before fading. Izuku lands back in front of Ochako and Momo before grinning and taking a bow. While he was putting on his performance he had no idea of the other audience that had formed, so when the audience at the road began to clap he got very embarrassed. 19. Izuku walked over to Momo and Ochako who were unable to find words to even explain what they just witnessed other than, wow. Ochako had seen Izuku put on a display before with his quirk, but this one took the cake. Izuku tried to say something, but felt a little woozy from the act and almost fell backwards. He apologized and explained how his quirk will cause temporary numbness that can go even affect his senses if things go too far for a short period of time. Though the drawback was rather great, the use and sheer power behind the quirk was still one to behold. When this was over, Izuku and Ochako brought Momo back to her home with the day nearing its end. When they got to her estate's front door, the creation user had thanked them both for an exciting day and asked if they would wish to do it again sometime. Both agreed and said they would like it. They started to go their separate ways. But before they left, Momo grabbed Izuku to kiss his cheek as a thank you before running into her house. Izuku went red at this before Ochako did the same. They made their way home with Izuku dropping Ochako off at her home and gave her a peck on the lips saying that she'll see him tomorrow. While entering his own home, Izuku was met by his mother sitting on the sofa watching a show on TV. How was the date, Izuku? Izuku smiled while touching both his cheeks. It was nice. Izuku said nothing else as he went into his room and got ready for bed. His thoughts that night was on how this relationship may not be as bad as it was originally though and was excited for what the future would bring for him. 2 years had passed with Izuku, Ochako, and Momo's relationship going as it was. They had gone on some rather interesting dates in this time with some rather undesirable outcomes. One of which was Momo meeting Bakugo who tried to pick a fight with Izuku. Izuku tried to reason with the hot-headed teen, but he would not listen. This resulted in the two fighting with Izuku trying to pull it into a less confined area so nothing would get damaged. When this happened, Izuku shot a bolt of lightning to Bakugo's feet and melted his shoes to pavement keeping him from moving. Izuku walked away hearing Bakugo swear and threatening to kill him the second he got free. After this, Ochako explained how Bakugo was an egoist that had his shorts in a knot the second Izuku had his quirk and regularly comes around and picks fights when the two meet. Momo thought many things on this, but one that popped into her head was just, prick. She never enjoyed name-calling, but this was the best she could think of with Bakugo after his little rant and attack on Izuku. 14. Not all ended badly though. Some ended with a nice outcome with one in particular being of the carnival coming to Mustafar. Momo had never gone to one before and was rather excited. At one point, her and Ochako acted almost as if they were sisters with the level of excitement beaming out of them. Izuku at one point had to wear sunglasses from the bright purity coming from the duo's excitement. This was something Momo was happy to experience, and both Izuku and Ochako were happy to experience with her. They enjoyed that evening with Ochako finding a tent that showed all the animals in the show, including a white tiger. This caught everyone's attention as it was used in a unicycle riding act instead of a bear. This caught a laugh by everyone with this date ending on a very high note to the trio finding out their joy of carnivals. Finally the end of their trial had come with Shiroma waiting for an answer from the three. 15. Well Shimura, I'm certain you three have had quite the fair amount of enjoyment over the past 2 years dating. Now that you have spent some time together, what is your decision? Izuku thought about this before looking at Ochako and Momo. What do you two think of this? Momo spoke up first. At first, I thought this was going to be impossible to manage with the way things are. But after spending time with you both, I think it wouldn't be as hard as I believe. Same here. I was more worried Izuku may be taken away from me and I'd never see him again. But now that I can tell this is definitely not the case, I'm okay with it. Izuku smiled as he looked at Shiroma. If they're fine with this, then I'm fine with it too. I accept your offer, Mr. Yaoyorozu, and I am willing to marry Momo if you are able to accept Ochako into that as well. Shiromo smiled as he nodded. I don't see a problem with that. Also, do not worry about myself keeping our end of the deal, Miss Uraraka. I will make sure to assist your family in return for your acceptance of this. Thank you, sir. Ochako bowed as the four of them immediately started preparations for the wedding. On the wedding day, Izuku stood at the altar nervous with his brother All Might being his best man. The two looked so out of place as a family due to the size difference and the image of a bulky blonde being related to a fit but smaller stature dark-haired boy. As the music started, the door opened to see Ochako and Momo being escorted into the chapel with their fathers. Shiromo was proud as anything, while Maruki held back the urge to cry that his little girl was getting married. Once all three were at the altar, the pastor started his sermon for the marriage. Everything was quiet as they began saying their vows to each other. Ochako had gone first with looking at the two. Izuku, we've known each other for most of our lives. You have been my friend, my savior on some occasions, and a big motivation for my dreams and goals. When I was finally able to call you my lover, it filled my heart with joy for this day. That also includes you, Momo. She turned to Momo and started. Though we may not have started on the right foot, Momo, I'm happy to be standing here with you. You're smart and caring just like Izuku. If I could pick anyone to share a life partner with, I'm proud it's you. I hope that we both will find happiness with the man we love. 17. Momo was the next to speak. Izuku, I apologize if we started on the wrong foot. If I could do anything different, I would have met you in Ochako sooner. You are an amazing person who shows compassion regardless of it needing to be shown. I hope our lives together stand as something I will cherish for the rest of our lives. Momo looked over to Ochako. If any word on how we first met could somehow apologetic I am for giving you the wrong impression, it would be I'm sorry and that my intentions were never anything foul. Learning how it is to be in a relationship with you has been something I will always cherish. I want this to work and am happy that you are willing to help make this work as well. With this, I am proud to be someone that stands with you beside the man we both love. 7. Izuku finally spoke after this to the both of them first. I am happy you both are willing to make this work. You have no idea how happy this makes me. Izuku turned to Ochako first. I can't tell you when I first had feelings for you, Ochako. As long as I've known you, I always cared for you like nobody else. The day you accepted my offer to be in a relationship with me was one of the most beautiful moments in my life. I cannot tell you how happy this day makes me. Izuku now turned to Momo. The day my mother told me of how things turned out, I was worried what the three of us will have to overcome. I was scared you were never going to be happy with me, so I wanted to first know how you felt about this. But after spending time with you, I began to fall in love again with you. If I had to pick and choose between you and Ochako, I don't think I could. You both are special in my life and hold a place in my heart. I love you both and will always from now till the end of time. 25. The pastor had stated that he now pronounced them man and wives after this and that they may kiss. But right before they did, the stained glass near the door broke open with Bakugo clearly angry. I fucking object to this shitty wedding. Deku, you bastard. You're not getting a bitch before me. Bakugo sent a shot at Izuku and practically destroyed the front of the church with everyone screaming and running away. Let me get this straight. You crashed through a beautiful stained glass window, caused mass destruction of a sacred building, nearly blew my wives up for your own fucking ego. ? Quote. Electricity was starting to be thrown off Izuku as Ochako, Momo, and the priest were behind a shield Momo made at the last second. Let me show you why you never say you object to a wedding. Izuku made a small ball of electricity in his hand. From Bakugo's point of view, Izuku vanishes in a flash of light before his fist clad in electricity and is slammed into Bakugo's stomach for it to explode. The discharge sends him flying out the other window, shattering it with his head. Izuku stood up while patting his hands knowing his job was done. And don't come to the reception. 68. Once everyone settled down, the final part of the ceremony was started again with the three kissing and no interruptions this time. The group immediately went to the reception that was held not far from the ceremony in a rather upscale restaurant. Everyone was having a good time with Nana patting her younger son on the back, becoming a man of men as she called him. The reception went off without a hitch, with Mitsuki coming up and apologizing for a rather very scorched Katsuki's behavior, and was rather surprised he even knew where the wedding was. The three brushed it off, saying it wasn't her fault, but Momo and Ochako were cursing internally at Bakugo, waiting for the day they can get back at him for charring their wedding dresses and ruining one of the best moments of their lives. But they held their spite down and went over to their table to talk with their family. 30. While sitting down, they talked with Inko, who was with child and had been for 6 months, with Toshinori sitting happily at his wife. They were married almost a year prior and could not be happier, knowing they will soon be graced with their first child. Though one thing Toshi wanted to talk to Izuku about in private out of the eyes of everyone was eating at him. He tapped his brother's shoulder and motioned for him to go outside for a moment. Once there, the buff Toshinori deflated into a scrawny man with hollow cheeks and eyes that sank deeply into his skull. This was a side effect of a battle he had with the nefarious All for One. He had gotten the upper hand and made a hole in Toshinori's stomach and nearly killed the mighty hero. Fortunately he didn't, and All Might was able to keep his ability to be a hero, if only for 3 hours a day. They stood out there with Nana, Ochako, and Momo, listening in secretly to their talk. 3. So what is it you wish to talk about? Toshinori held his hand up and pointed at Izuku. The time has come for you to bear the torch, Izuku. You and your wives are preparing to enter the entrance exams in the next 10 months, so I want to give you OFA when I was given it. It's only fair in my eyes. But Toshi, what about being a hero? You're the symbol, you can't just quit like that. Do not worry. One for All doesn't just leave the body. I'll still have some of the back burner of what was left. It'll be enough to hold out in case you know who is still around. Izuku knew who he was talking about, along with the girls. They were told of the history of AFO and OFA when All Might was gravely injured. This is something Izuku and Nana feared may one day happen. They thought he was gone when Toshi nearly died and took him down, but they know all too well that the man they face is the devil incarnate. He wouldn't go down so easily. Okay, I accept, but only if you remain a pro long enough to see me make it on the scene as the next you. Toshi smiled at this. I wouldn't have it any other way. 16. 5 months later, as the clock for UA's entrance exams ticked away, Izuku had been training himself as hard as he could to become ready to gain his brother and now master's legacy. The first thing on his agenda was to clean a beach that was piled high with garbage. Dagoba Municipal Beach was a beautiful place and somewhere Izuku and Ochako played and enjoyed as children. Now this beach is nothing more than an illegal dumping site. This was also the place where the first date between Izuku, Ochako and Momo had ended, and seeing it in this condition made their hearts ache in sorrow. Ready to revive this once great beach, Izuku went straight to work. He worked his muscles mainly with the occasional quirk used as a magnet for the smaller things that were very hard to pick up by hand. In a matter of a 5-month time span, Izuku was able to clear the main coastline and farther. His goal was farther than what his brother said and clean the entire beach, so this could never happen again. This was quite the work, but Izuku was prepared to give it his all. One night, coming home from a dinner date with Ochako and Momo, the trio heard crying in an alley. They looked inside to see a baby in a blanket crying out for attention. Hey there, sweetie, why are you crying? Ochako picked up the baby to have her look at the three with crimson red eyes. They inspected it closely to see it was a baby girl with snow-white hair and a horn growing out of the right side of her forehead. 12. 150. Did someone leave you here alone? The baby started to babble like she knew what Ochako was saying. Doesn't seem to be a note anywhere. Do you think she was abandoned? Momo said this with Izuku looking at the baby with his head turned a bit. The baby turned its head to match Izuku, with Izuku smiling at this. She started to give a toothless smile that resembled a buff hero they knew. Maybe we should take her in. She obviously doesn't have anywhere else to go. Momo says this while taking the baby from Ochako. She will need a name though. Ochako looked at the little girl and got an idea. What about Eri? The baby smiled at this, indicating she loved the idea. Then it's settled, your name is Eri. 14. The trio started to walk out of the alley with Izuku feeling another presence. We're not alone. They turned to see a man with a plague mask and a jacket staring at them. Good, you found my daughter. None of them believed him with Eri blowing a raspberry at the man. Now that's mean, sweetie. Doing that to your own father. The man said this with not much emotion to immediately pop a red flag for the three of them. So why was she in an alley? Some idiot took her and left her here. You both don't seem to look much like each other. She was given to me by her birth mother who didn't want her anymore. So where's the guy that put her here? He must have left. Now if you don't mind, give me her. Izuku stood in front while refusing. I'm sorry sir, but this girl needs to go to a police station before anything. This didn't sit right with the man. He began to take his glove off and destroyed the area around them to make spikes. 6. On instinct, Izuku used electromagnetism to throw Ochako and Momo, who was clutching Eri, out of the alley and levitated himself above the spikes. Not bad, kid, but not good enough. The man tried this again and sent spikes at the three of them, with Izuku becoming enraged and shot with over 1,000,000,000 volts at the man. At the moment Izuku was pissed, lightning manifested from around his eyes, turning them pure white with fury. He extended both his hands with his fingers outstretched towards the villain that attacked them. Lightning runs along his arms like angry spiders before lunging from his fingers to the villain, electrocuting him with 1.5 billion volts. 1740. The amount of light that came out of the alley was so bright, it nearly blinded Momo and Ochako seeing it. When it died down, Izuku was standing in the alley with a completely burnt to a crisp remains of whoever the man inside the alley was. Izuku realized what he did and started to freak. Oh god, I just killed someone. Momo and Ochako ran in and realized what happened. Momo saw the plague mask a little better to realize who it was. That was Kai Chisaki, a Yakuza that lead the Shihasaikai. A very dangerous group in the underworld. He was wanted for the distribution and production of illegal quirk drugs that were sold on the black market. I also heard rumors that he's killed a lot of people, with the only things being found were puddles of blood with some human tissue in it, similar to if they were deconstructed molecule by molecule. Izuku heard this and pulled his phone out. I'm calling mom to get her input on this. 3. Few hours later, as the group waited for Nana to show up, they were met with the cops coming along with her. They obtained their stories and ruled this as an instance of self-defense against a hostile villain, accidental quirk death, and protection of a third party. Izuku wasn't held accountable, and was able to get off the hook. When they came home, Nana had the three of them sit on the couch with Eri sitting on Izuku's lap. So you killed a villain. To be honest, I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. So you're not mad, Izuku? You're gonna kill villains as a hero sometimes. You may not want to, but it will happen from time to time. What you did today saved not just your own life, but 3 other lives today at the cost of the monster who was trying to take them. It is a necessary evil that heroes must do in a life or death situation. Not to mention, he was trying to kill you, and this happened because you defended yourself and turned Overhaul into Kentucky Fried villain. I can't criticize you for being in a situation I've been in before and did a similar act. I'm proud you were able to stand doing this when the situation called for it in order to save others. It's a hard call, and I'm happy you were able to make it. Between you and me, Izuku, electrocution is not a good way to cook things or people in this case. 62. Izuku smiled as Eri tried to grab his face but ended up yanking his hair instead. So what are we gonna do about this little hair puller? Well, we could take care of her. Nana looked at the little snowball. So you're wanting to adopt the kid? Izuku, Ochako, and Momo looked at Eri, who was smiling at them. I guess we could. None of you have a problem with it, right? Neither Momo or Ochako argued this, with Nana smiling. So I got a second grandkid. Sweet. Nana picked Eri up to look at her and smile. Hello little one, welcome to the Shimura family. Nana started kissing Eri with her, giggling at this. I'm gonna get my old crib from storage with some clothes that are kinda unisex until tomorrow. Okay, just don't make too many more babies. You already have one, and by the looks of it I'd say she's a little younger than 3 months old. Speaking of, we need to get her to a doctor to see if she has an allergy to formula, because Izuku here did, and there's a chance that Eri, I think her name was, could have one too. Fair point, and yes, that's her name. Izuku shouts this as he brings out a crib and some clothes. But it's late at night, we're not gonna find a doctor at this hour. Then we go with plan B for now. All three of them look at her for an answer. Quote. Which is, we find out if Ochako or Momo can be a wet nurse. Everyone went silent at this. Izuku, don't give me that look, I know you've taken showers with them and or have peeked in on your wives while they showered. You're as much a pervert as your father was before he died and you're not even subtle about it. Izuku facepalmed with Ochako and Momo doing the same. Eri watched this and tried to mimic them as well but decided her gumming up her hand and was a close second. The only thing in everyone's mind was on how long this night may be for them. 26. The night went past almost as if it was a normal evening. Eri managed to get some milk from Momo and Ochako but preferred to drink from Momo for the evening. After being given a fresh diaper and a newly washed onesie, she was placed in the small crib and almost instantly fell asleep. Eri stayed asleep for over 13 hours from 9 that evening to 10:30 the next morning. Nana was shocked that she slept for so long without waking up due to needing to be burped or have a diaper changed. What she also didn't expect was when she went to wake her son and his wives he would find them sitting on Izuku's bed still asleep with Izuku holding Eri on his chest. Izuku figured at some point during the evening that her sleeping in a crib would be better off for later. He had assumed she'd been abandoned for several hours if not an entire day and decided that the infant needed attention for her to sleep as peacefully as she did. Eri isn't that much of a fussy baby but if there is one thing that the little 3-month-old is obsessed with it is attention, especially from her father. During the following day she refused to be held by anyone else aside from Izuku and even cried when she was put in a playpen to take a nap. Eventually Izuku gave in and picked her up before lounging on the couch and letting her nap on his chest. Momo and Ochako had gone out together to purchase all the baby necessities that she'll need. When they got back to pick up Izuku and bring him and Eri to her doctor's appointment they found the two of them out cold on the couch with the television acting as white noise on in the background. Izuku had his left hand over the infant's back acting as a blanket and his other over his eyes with his right leg draped off the side of the couch as he snored. Eri similarly to Izuku was in a similar position on his chest. Her left arm was under her head, her right was on his chest and her leg fell slightly off his stomach just like his is off the couch. Momo laughs to herself before taking a picture of the father-daughter duo and saving it as her background. 3 months have passed since the trio discovered Eri with life for them being somewhat normal. At least, as normal as adopting a baby and turning a villain into KFV can be. During their appointment with the doctor, they found out that Eri is as healthy as any child her age is without an issue with formula. Though they had nothing to fear, it was good for them to know that Ochako and Momo can nurse if need be when they're in a pinch. They also discovered that Eri's horn on her head is related to her quirk. Apparently, it was a very powerful quirk that could rewind things to a pre-existing state and only worked on human beings. This would be concerning to them when she fully activates it, but they put in a request for a quirk-canceling wristband just in case she accidentally activates it. The band will start to beep if the quirk would activate and give people a fair word of warning so they could work to manage against it. She had problems in the beginning, but Eri eventually got used to it and didn't mind it as much. 41. This morning was a normal one for the trio with Izuku up early making breakfast for everyone with Eri nuzzled soundly in a harness on his back. The toddler was not sleeping soundly the night before and didn't want to let go of Izuku this morning. So as a way to work around this, Izuku put on the harness to let her stay holding on to her father while he handled some morning duties of his own. Morning Izuku. Nana walked in yawning while grabbing a cup of coffee. Morning Mom. She walked over to tickle Eri's face while smiling at her little grandchild. She didn't want to let go. Nope. While they were talking, Momo and Ochako came out in Izuku's shirts covering them and making it look like they were only wearing this. Morning you two. Morning Izuku. Both answer with some yawns before Ochako takes Eri out of the harness. She starts to wake up to see her two mothers and smile. And how is our little snowball today? Ochako says this with a baby face with Eri giggling at the attention. 2. So how's life going with you two? It's a transition, but we are taking it step by step. Momo says this while warming a bottle of formula for Eri. She tests it on her skin with Eri not flinching to indicate that the temperature was right before giving the now 6-month-old baby her morning breakfast. You two definitely took to motherhood quickly. You should be proud of yourselves. Thanks. Ochako and Momo go to sit down at the table with Izuku bringing over a few plates of food for them all to share. So Izuku, when's the next one coming? Mom, Mrs. Shimura. The three answer in unison with Eri only watching without much knowledge on what's going on. What? I know you three have already done it. Also, that lipstick on your butt doesn't help your situation, Izuku. We didn't get that kinky last night. Quote. So you three agree you've done that before. Izuku puts his head on the table with Ochako and Momo facepalming themselves at their poor choice of words. Again Izuku, perverted as your father. Let's change the subject please, I don't want to talk about this in front of Eri. Burp. Everyone turns their attention to a giggling child who just finished her breakfast. 8. Everyone decided to finally start eating with Nana starting a new topic. So how far are you from being done with the beach cleanup? I was actually able to finish it last night ahead of schedule. We're gonna meet Toshi today so he can pass on OFA to me. That's good. Now I should warn you about something very important when you get the quirk. Nana became rather serious when talking to her son. OFA is an energy stockpile quirk that can be passed down. The effects it has on your body alone is extraordinary. You've seen what a person like Toshi can do with it. But if it was given to someone with a quirk, the original quirk will have a major boost. My float was able to get powerful enough where I can float large buildings like it was nothing. And I'm getting it 2 generations later, which means it's going to be stronger. Nana snapped her fingers before pointing at Izuku. Exactly. To be honest, my quirk isn't powerful like yours. So you need to be even more careful with it and how you combine the two if you ever do. Your quirk will be at least 9 times stronger than it already is. Do not take this lightly. I won't. I promise I will handle this the best I can, Mom. Nana smiled at this before ruffling her son's hair. She immediately turned to her daughters-in-law to add something they would need to learn. You two should also be very cautious if you all choose to have children of your own. Izuku is a prime example that OFA does affect unborn children's quirks and looks for that matter apparently. I can't guarantee your kids will have significant change like Izuku since it's him that carries the quirk and not you, but do be careful and prepared for a very powerful child if you do make one. Yes ma'am, understood. Also, enough with this Mrs. Shimura and ma'am stuff. Just call me Mom. Saying Mrs. or ma'am makes me feel like an old lady. Yes Mom. Both answer this with them smiling and noticing the time. We should probably finish eating. We promised Toshi that we'd meet him in half an hour. They agreed before finishing their food with Eri playing with her empty bottle. 15. At the beach. As Toshinori drove to the beach, he noticed that Izuku and Ochako were running to the beach with Eri on Momo's chest in a harness. Momo herself was being levitated by Ochako and tugged along by Izuku with a tow cable. Nice to see you three again. Pant sorry we're late, we got tied up with breakfast a bit. Izuku says this while being rather winded. It's quite alright, I just arrived. The shriveled up crow looked at the beach and marveled at Izuku's hard work. Nicely done Izuku, you exceeded my expectations and did it in a time span that would make it almost impossible. Now for your reward. Toshinori bulked up to his buff form before smiling at the three. This power is different than yours Izuku. This is not something you can just have at birth, you have to earn it. With this, I'm proud to say you haven't picked you to become my successor Izuku. The electric user smiled at this while Toshinori pulled a strand of hair out of his head. Now, eat this. 14. 2. The three teens stared at him, completely confused at the request and delivery of the line. Both Izuku and little Eri tilted their heads to the side giving him the same look. This sparks All Might to quickly explain why this is the case. You have to consume my DNA to inherit my quirk, how did you think this worked? All Might asks in an exasperated fashion. I thought it was a whole ritual with masks, magic and fire, not hair eating on a beach. Besides, with all that hairspray you use, it's probably going to get me sick. Izuku responds to his older brother before taking the hair from his grasp. Well, bottoms up I suppose. He says, dropping the hair into his mouth and swallowing it before sticking his tongue out in disgust. That's by far the grossest thing I've seen you do. Momo comments before both Shimura men give her a bemused look. What was the grossest? They ask in unison. You stuck your hand in a sink that was backed up from the garbage disposal. The water looked more like mud than water, and I didn't let you touch me until you took 4 showers in a row to clean yourself off," she says, with Ochako shuddering at the thought of the gross sink water. "In my defense, I boiled the water with my lightning by heating up the metal, so it's not like I could have gotten sick from it afterwards," he replies, trying to defend himself. "That's still pretty gross," Ochako says as 3 of the 5 of them start to laugh. 34. How will I know if the transfer worked? Will I feel any different? Izuku asks as they begin to make their trip home, but not before stopping for food along the way. "You will feel an all-over surge of power, like something you've never even imagined." All Might responds but gets a deadpan look from the 3 teens and Baby. "You do know he's a walking power plant and cyclone, right? He bleeds literal power. I doubt that would feel any different than normal," Momo says as she gets Eri to start to drink from another bottle she had packed for the day. "I didn't exactly think that analogy through, did I? Well, we will just have to wait and see then. Have you test your quirk on something Mother doesn't need? She's recently broken a spatula when she accidentally burnt something to a pan and tried to pry it off, so maybe we can use that as a target," he responds as they pull into the parking lot in front of the apartment complex. They make their way back up to Nana's penthouse before letting themselves in. As they do, they are met with Nana standing there with an ear-to-ear grin on her face looking at Izuku. 2. "So, Mr. Ninth Holder, feel any different?" she asks as Izuku looks his body over a couple times before even checking inside his pants, getting a laugh out of his mother. "No, not really, though I am suddenly now hungry." "How can you be hungry? You just had lunch when we were driving back here." "I don't know. Maybe it kicked in," Izuku says with a shrug. All of a sudden Nana walks off, then drags a rocket-proof blast shield and steel beam before attaching a target to the end of it. "Shock this," she says, hiding behind the blast shield. Before Izuku charges up, Ochako makes it apparent to get herself, Eri and Momo behind the shield, with All Might having either the stupidity or bravery to stand behind Izuku and not shield himself for what is to come. He takes a deep breath before raising a hand up to the target. As he extends his pointer finger, a sudden torrent of silver lightning arcs around his body, streaming towards his hand as he zaps the plate with what was supposed to be a very weak shock. The discharge is so sudden it blasts Izuku backwards into All Might, sending both of them through a layer of drywall. When the dust settles, the end of the metal rod is clearly missing more than a meter of metal, and the circular target is now a perfect hole in the opposite wall, revealing the daylight from outside. "Whoa," as anyone says, looking at the carnage from the blast. "How much force did you use behind that?" Momo asks, peeking her head out from behind the shield. "That was supposed to be one of the shocks you get from the laundry every once in a while, or the flirty kind I do on occasion when I zap your butt." 27. So you do that when you want to flirt with your wives? Nana says this with a smirk to make Izuku, Momo, and Ochako go beet red. Anyway, poof, you can tell what a single small shock can do with OFA mixed into your original quirk. If by any chance you decide to destroy something with a serious electric blast from your quirk, the damage done to the plate will pale in comparison to what will be. Toshinori says this while turning back into his shriveled up form. Izuku stares at his hands before he notices his finger was burned and he could hardly feel any numbness in his hand. You should also be aware that the drawback you have is significantly weakened when you use it as well. That is in trade with what the quirk will do to your body if not used properly. Izuku glanced at Ochako, Momo, and Eri before clenching his fist. So long as I can protect my family with this, I'll find a way. Everyone smiled as Eri reached for her father. To help her, Ochako used her zero-gravity quirk to make her float over and be caught by the said lightning user. It's a tall order you're placing on yourself, Izuku. You sure you can handle it? Nana says this while leaning on a wall smiling at her son and his family. If I want to become the next #1 pro, then that's what I'm gonna have to do. 1. Nana smiled at her son as she went to relax on the couch while watching the trio that day go about their daily lives and training Izuku's quirks. The day went as normal as it could, with Eri smiling at watching her parents train and become stronger while giving shrieks. Toshinori decided it was time for him to go after a little while since he needed to get back home to watch his and Inko's infant daughter Tanoshi while Inko picked up a late night shift at the hospital she worked at. He said his fond farewells, and left the group with Izuku slowly learning how to manage getting 1 or 2 blasts without suffering from his quirk's backlash. When the evening came, Eri was sleeping soundly in her crib inside the trio's room with them watching with bliss of the white-haired baby's content. They soon followed her lead and relaxed in their bed with Ochako and Momo grabbing an arm. The trio soon found themselves falling into a deep sleep filled with happy memories of now and what is to come. Each dreamed of a big and happy family with 2 or more kids from each of the girls, not counting Eri, enjoying a life together with Izuku being a supportive husband and a doting father to them all. Smiles that could rival All Might was seen on their faces as they slept with this blissful dream in their heads. The day of the entrance exams had finally come with the trio arriving at the gate. They smiled as years of their own work and dedication had led to this. Well, guess this is it. The two nodded with Eri playing with Momo's chin. Why so serious all of a sudden? Izuku felt his mother smack his back to nearly send him to the ground if he didn't catch himself. You and Ochako are gonna do great, just relax. Izuku took a deep breath with Ochako doing the same. This whole morning, their nerves were on edge with this exam. Momo tried to calm them down, but how can you make someone who is taking a test that has like a 2% success rate to calm down? The only reason she wasn't freaking is because Momo's family was able to get her in with a recommendation. Nana and Toshi both tried to give Izuku one, but he said he wanted to earn this himself and not because of his connections to his family. They understood and offered to give the offer to Ochako as well, but the Gravity Girl denied it and gave a similar speech saying she wants to do at least this by herself. They weren't completely unprepared though. Izuku and Ochako trained their butts off with studying and combat training to a point a real villain would have to stop them if they were going to fail. 2. Get out of my way, losers. Oh great, the angry garbage mouth is here too. Everyone looked at Momo with Bakugo stopping in his tracks to turn towards her. What was that ponytailed bitch? The explosive boy started setting off mini explosions in his hands. That's enough, kid. Get out of here before you scare my grandkid. Nana shouts this with Bakugo looking at the little girl in the harness. Guess you finally got one of your slew, boom. Bakugo stops talking when Izuku sends a bolt of lightning at his face. It only misses by millimeters, but it was close enough for it to burn off small hairs on Bakugo's face. Call them that again and see what happens, Kachin. Izuku was pissed and it was known. Bakugo didn't say a word as he walked away. As he did, Eri thought it was best to blow a raspberry at him to make everyone laugh. Anyway, you two should hurry up or you're gonna miss your exam. Gotcha. Izuku went over to kiss Eri and Momo before Ochako hugged Momo and kissed Eri as a goodbye. See you all when we're done. They ran in with Momo, Eri, and Nana making their way to the observation room. 23. In the pre-exam room, Izuku and Ochako sat down in their seats with them looking to the side and seeing their hot-headed acquaintance in the seat. Stupid fucking nerd. First he gets 2 bitches, now I have to sit next to the damned asshole. Not too thrilled with sitting next to you either, Bakugo. To be honest, I'd rather sit next to a dog with rabies. Then again, the only thing you're missing on occasion is the foaming out the mouth. Bakugo heard this and felt enraged at this little comment. He attempted to make a few small explosions, but Izuku glared at him with a death stare, holding an insane amount of electricity in his hands to make it seem like he had a mini light in his hand. Bakugo stood down at this. He knew firsthand how powerful Izuku's lighting was, and seemed to only notice that his control only grew more and more powerful as time passed. While this was going on, the people around them felt the death aura coming off of the two and decided to sit a few seats away from the trio just in case something broke out between them. 21. Alright folks, welcome to your entrance exams. Can I get a yeah? Present Mike shouted this with the sound of the room going dead silent. Wow, tough crowd. Anyway, let's get this show on the road. Mike began to explain how this test is graded on a point system with them facing robots with a point value between 1 to 3. Your final score at the end of the test will vary on how many of these point villains you destroy. So it's like Mario. Izuku nodded at his zero-gravity wife's comment before noticing something odd. There's 4 robots on here instead of just 3. I don't think this would be a mistake since they're a top-tier school, so maybe it's like an obstacle or something. Excuse me. A boy with blue hair that seemed like a robot in the way he acted jumped out of his seat to ask a question. You say there are 3 robots, but on the paper you have provided there are 4. If this is a mistake, it is unbecoming of a school of such high regard such as UA. He turns his gaze to Izuku after this. And you back there. Your muttering during this entire speech is irritating and your blatantly unjust use of your quirk in the beginning is unbecoming of a hero, please stop. You're arguing with me who was literally thinking the same thing you did and probably came to a possible conclusion that the 4th is more an obstacle than a target, that my muttering is annoying from all the way down there while I'm in the nosebleed section. Is this what you're gonna say when things get serious in a prose situation where a battle is going to hell around them? Because if this annoys you, that's gonna be impossible for you to do your job. Also, if you want to blame anyone for unjust use of quirks, it's the kid with rabies over here. Izuku points at Bakugo, who starts shouting profanity at the electric quirk user who sends him into the next set of seats via lightning bolt, with everyone staying quiet. 15. Mike continues with his explanation for it to be exactly as Izuku believed it, with the robot giving nothing if you defeat it. Everyone understood that this robot was more an obstacle than a real opponent. Everyone was dismissed and told to go to their designated exam areas. As Izuku and Ochako got on the bus, they noticed the boy that called Izuku out and decided to avoid him. They got prepared with Ochako looking at Izuku to try and ask a question. So what are you gonna do in this? A mix or just one of the two? I think I'll try doing just my original quirk today since I wanna gauge how good it is in this match with adding, you know what, when we get into UA. Ochako understood Izuku's logic since she's seen him overuse OFA and break his hand shooting a bolt of lightning a few times. In a one-hit moment, the quirk was great. But when it comes to something prolonged like this, Izuku would need to save it as a trump card if he gets in a jam. Izuku began to notice the doors open up and tap Ochako to make her realize it as well. Very few noticed this, with Ochako pulling Izuku a little closer to help their chances a little better. When they got to the front, Mike stood on top of the gates to start the match. Go! Izuku and Ochako darted off into the city with everyone confused. What? There's no ready set in a real fight, follow those two. Everyone ran in to only notice the duo already had some of an advantage against them. Izuku was using lightning bolts to incapacitate villains, with Ochako using them and robots she lifted up herself to crash down on other robots. Their goal was to work as a team and gain as many points as they could together. That's 46 for me, how many do you have? Ochako drops a few robots to add her count up a bit. 42. As they spoke, a few more 2-pointers came at them, with Izuku zapping 5 of them, and Ochako floating 5 herself and making them fall and break. This is surprisingly easier than I thought it would be. Be careful, when things are easier than you think or when there's a twist or turn you need to watch out for. 3 1-pointers on your left. Ochako notices them and floats them up to smash them as Izuku takes down 2 2-pointers. 1. In the observation room, Momo, Nana, and Toshinori watch as Izuku and Ochako manage very well, with some teachers watching them with interest. The boy's good. Him and the girl are very well in tune with each other's skills. Who are they? A small rodent pulls up records to show their photo ids on a small screen. Izuku Shimura and Ochako Shimura. Married 10 months ago along with a Momo Shimura. Has an adopted daughter named Eri. Quirks are an extremely powerful electricity and weather manipulation or electrolysis and mediokinesis quirk for Mr. Izuku, a gravity-based quirk for Mrs. Ochako, and a creation quirk for Mrs. Momo. Everyone looks back to notice a raven-haired girl with a small baby smiling at the pictures on the screen. Who invited the girl and baby? A hobo-looking man says this as Nana raises her hand. Sorry, she came to cheer on my son and her husband. It is nice to see you again, Mrs. Shimura, how have you been? The small rodent-looking person asks with a pleasant smile. I've been well, Nezu. I see you all are fascinated by Izuku as well. So is he your grandson or something? Nope, my son, and the proud father of this little snowball. 2. Nana starts tickling Eri's chin to make her giggle at this. Well, They seem to be doing well for themselves along with the others. I think it's about time we step it up a notch. Nezu touches a large red button for the ground to start shaking. Excuse me, but what did he mean by stepping it up a notch? There's a reason we have Recovery Girl on staff here and why we advise examinations of how dangerous the hero course's exams are. This is the reason. Momo looks at the screen amazed by what she sees on it. What is that? She shouts, seeing a massive silhouette. 4. On the training field, unbeknownst to the examinees, the button has been pressed, releasing the giant metal kaiju from its slumber. The road of the entire false city shakes violently as if a tremor from an earthquake rumbles the city. Suddenly a building collapses, showering the road below in rubble as the massive robot breaks through. 2. It leers down at the examinees on the ground before standing straight up and starting to drive towards them. At a measly 2 miles an hour. Yeah, big-ass robots look cool but are very, very slow. The students start running away from the giant robot in panic with some screaming at the sight. Izuku stops in fear seeing the giant robot nearing 20 stories tall. He begins to turn and run, but a familiar voice screams his name and he stops dead in his tracks. Izuku. Ochako screams, causing Izuku to turn on his heels, and instead of fleeing he sprints towards the metal monstrosity. 4. Electricity starts to arc around Izuku's body before he lunges forwards, taking to the air and now flying towards Ochako at his max speed. Seeing that Ochako is trapped under a piece of rubble in front of the robot, he has 2 choices at this moment. Save Ochako and get out of there and risk having more buildings collapse as they are making their escape, or destroy the robot, stopping the destruction. He knows that Ochako can levitate the rubble off her legs, but due to being injured she wouldn't be able to move out of the way, and grabbing her would be an issue of speed, so he has to destroy the metal beast. Increasing his altitude and opening his right hand towards the sky, a bolt of lightning strikes his hand before seemingly being caught. The purple electricity formed around into a sort of weapon in his hand, with a spear point and axe's blade. 23. Like this, but made entirely out of electricity. Getting to face height with the beast, he uses the new weapon, throwing it into the faceplate of the robot and calling out its name. Blitzableiter, or lightning rod. This action causes the lightning halberd to arc with electricity before releasing a massive explosion of plasma and striking the metal beast several times with bolts of divine wrath. 14. The robot began to fall over with its head completely melted off, with liquid metal toppling over onto the ground. As this happened, Izuku came barreling down to the ground and stopped inches off the ground before landing safely on his feet. When he landed though, he felt immense pain as his feet became broken from his attack. He tried to scream in pain, but found he had gone far over his limit and became mute. Izuku, you okay? Izuku looked over to see Ochako in pain, but all right. He nods with her, looking at him confused. He explained in hand gestures that he went a little over his limit and can't move his legs or speak for the time being, along with just a few burns on his hands. Ochako understood this and chose to nod. All right youngsters, who's hurt? A short older woman came over with a cane to the 2, with her looking at Izuku a little shocked. 9. Heavens boy, you're a mess. She began to pucker her lips before they extended to kiss Izuku's forehead to send shivers down everyone's spines. As if by magic, after Izuku's legs were healed and the burns on his hands were no longer there. Everyone was amazed before Izuku blacked out from exhaustion. Seemed he still had quite the amount in the tank. Good to see youngsters so lively. The old woman turned to Ochako to heal her as well, with her not blacking out, but very close to. Sorry for the late introduction dearie, but my name is Recovery Girl. My quirk allows me to heal people at the cost of their own stamina. The more injuries you have that I heal, the more stamina I need to take to heal you. But don't worry, you're both young and it should come back quickly. Recovery Girl had walked away with everyone amazed at what just happened. Not long after, Nana and Momo had come down to the fake city to pick up Izuku and Ochako. Since Izuku needed to be carried, Nana lugged him on her back while Momo was able to support Ochako by her shoulder to carry the 2 out. Once they were outside, Ochako regained enough energy to walk again, with the 5 walking home in contemplation of the day by far. So how do you think you 2 did? Yon, I think we have a shot, but fingers are still crossed. Nana smiled at this, with Ari attempting to mimic Ochako to only look at her hands to notice her fingers. As the family found their way home, Momo had given Eri to Nana with her giving Izuku to Ochako and Momo to place in their bed. As he rested, Momo and Ochako noticed Izuku was smiling. "He's so easygoing." "He is, but it's a trait we both admire about him." Ochako smiled at this before they heard Izuku mumble something in his sleep. "Ochako, Momo, I love you." They smiled at this before hugging their husband with satisfaction. "Let's make Eri yawn, little siblings." The two heard this and went red thinking of what Izuku just said. They looked at each other and agreed on a mutual pact. "We're gonna worry about that later in the future." They walked out to grab Eri, who had fallen asleep, with Ochako desiring to follow their daughter's lead. They brought her back into the room to lay her down in her crib before taking their usual spots on Izuku's arms. In minutes, Ochako and Momo were passed out, with the only sound in the room being pleasant snores from the four of them. 1 week after the wedding. Honeymoons for newlywed couples are a magical experience filled with romance, and the entire experience is dedicated to the consummation of said marriage. Despite this being only for the newly wedded Shimuras, they had made the executive decision to bring their families on the vacation. Momo's parents had not had a vacation since the opening of their company, and Ochako's folks couldn't afford to miss a day of work. Nana, Toshinori, and the Yaoyorozus made this an all-expense-paid trip to Hawaii so that they and the newlyweds can enjoy themselves. Ochako's parents were over the moon upon finding out that they were going to Hawaii with no cost at all. Needless to say, Ochako's mother passed out and accidentally broke a glass coffee table when she fell down. After coming to, she vanishes, and before anyone can blink, everything they had needed for the 2-week vacation was packed and ready for them to leave that second. Aizawa Shota, a family friend of theirs, had agreed to cat-sit their kittens Mushu and Korine while they were away. 21. Though they were a little saddened they had to wait until that Friday to leave for the vacation, but as soon as that phone call came in that morning, they were already in their car and ready to go. The first flight from Mustafu to Tokyo was short at an hour at most, with Momo and Ochako gushing over an ultrasound picture held by a pregnant woman aboard the flight. Nana nudged Izuku's ribs after catching a glimpse of the picture, causing him to blush like mad and for her to laugh in response. From Tokyo International to Hawaii was a 12-hour flight, with most of the time, in first class, spent either sleeping or watching movies. Izuku, Ochako, and Momo, however, made it a point to learn as much English and Hawaiian as they could in the time it took them to get from Japan to Hawaii. Though nowhere near perfect, with the help of Toshinori their English was good enough to understand some of the colloquialisms and Hawaiian words. Izuku and All Might were particularly amused by the King Kamehameha article they read on the flight over. 22. After arriving at the airport, the locals greeting them in Hawaii gave them leis and the aforementioned aloha greeting. Then it was their trip through customs and baggage claim. Granted, All Might had joint citizenship in the US and Japan, but being pro-heroes didn't help in getting them through security any quicker. From there they were greeted with a limousine at the entrance, which took them to the 2 different hotels that they would be staying at whilst on the island. To avoid any awkwardness with having their entire family be in the same hotel they are going to break the bed, and possibly even floor in, their parents will be staying at a different hotel along the shoreline and a 5-minute walk from theirs from along the beach. After getting their belongings out of the limo they were about to enter the hotel when All Might stopped them. He placed a box in Izuku's backpack before tapping it twice. He gives Izuku a wink, which instantly procs his selected successor to start hitting his older brother with a brochure he had rolled up. 8. Finally, we've been awake since yesterday, I want to sleep, Ochako says as she slunks her way to the floor as they open the door to their penthouse suite of the main island's 10-star hotel. She turns to look up at Izuku, who's using his quirk to levitate the luggage with him, and Momo, who's simply walking with a small purse. 1. Ochako, I offered to take your bags and you can use your quirk here. Quirk laws in America are a lot more lax than back home. We also passed the date line. Yesterday is today, so technically speaking we have been awake for -3 hours now. Izuku explains as he levitates the contents of the bags to the drawers of the massive dresser in their room. 1. Yours and Ochako's quirks are very handy for moving things. If we didn't have heroes but had quirks, you two would be amazing for any moving company or construction. Momo replies as she sets her purse down on the quartz countertop of their kitchen. My parents save a fortune on heavy machinery since both of them have gravity quirks and most of our workers have strength-based ones. We only use a cement truck for heavy machinery. Ochako explains before levitating herself to the bed and slowly descending into it like a busty brunette feather. 16. Something about that looked very relaxing. Let's skip the formalities of the honeymoon night and take a nap to get used to the layover. It's 8 p.m. here and I need sleep, Izuku says as he strips off his shirt. Are we still sleeping naked? Ochako asks looking up to Momo who's already out of her top. 3. As Izuku hot. 1. Dumb question. Dumb question. 1. Izuku lets out a chuckle to himself as he takes off his pants and boxers before climbing into the bed with Ochako with Momo joining soon after. Momo curls herself around his form and begins to get comfortable before realizing that they never turned off the lights. She groans before standing up to go and turn them off, seeing as Ochako is sprawled out on top of Izuku and is already asleep. As she does, she feels a slight static shock on her butt which causes her to yelp and turn around. Izuku is snickering to himself with a cheeky grin seeing as he's the culprit to the flirtatious zap. She gives him a squinty-eyed look and pouts slightly before turning off the light. Izuku creates a small Jacob's ladder arc with his fingers creating enough light for her to see. She climbs back into bed and gets comfortable once more before kissing both Izuku and Ochako goodnight. 3. Waking the next morning the three of them restrain the urge to smash their alarm clock seeing as they are in a hotel. Ochako laughs seeing Izuku's fist stop above the alarm clock and gently clicks it off. Can't smash it while we're on vacation now, can you? It's a shame because that's always entertaining to see, she says. From there the three of them take a quick shower with Momo seeing it as a point to blindfold Izuku whilst showering to prevent any urges from their husband. After finishing up their bathroom ritual and getting dressed they head downstairs after locking their door before being met by Nana and Toshinori. Nana sees the girls walking up and is slightly saddened by something for a moment before making it a point to tease Izuku about the previous night. I see you didn't break the bed last night, you all just go straight to sleep. She asks with a smug smirk on her face. Yeah, we were awake for -3 hours yesterday today and just unpacked before turning in for the evening. Izuku explains as they exit the hotel. 54. What do you have planned for us today, Nana? Momo Yaoyorozu, Momo's mother, asks as they pile into the limousine destined for an unknown place. I have a lot planned today. We're going to eat first, then go hiking on the volcano's south face, then the beach for sunbathing and scuba diving before eating a late lunch and returning to the hotel. Momo, Ochako and Izuku aren't old enough to drink yet, so while we go to a luau this evening they will stay here and break in their marriage. Nana replies as the driver looks at the GPS before driving away from the hotel. It wasn't a long drive from the hotel to the hiking lodge on the south part of the island, maybe a 20-minute drive at most. Along the way Ochako and her folks were mesmerized by the beauty of the island. From the native birds to the coconut palm trees littering the island's shore, every detail was being absorbed by them as they drove to the lodge. After arriving, the paparazzi swarmed Nana and Toshinori after learning of their presence on the island. They did a quick photo op before telling them politely that they were there celebrating the marriage of Izuku to his two wives. The main reporter was a nosy one and asked a few more questions but soon enough buggered off to go bother another hero on the island. After getting their equipment and guide they set out on a hike along the volcano, collecting the volcanic glass and other interesting rocks along the way. Izuku had actually used some of his magnetism abilities to mold a flow of lava into a sculpture of him as a hero, then two more of Momo and Ochako before dropping the lava back into the small stream. As they walked along the side of the mountain they witnessed a small eruption pour into the ocean and create more landmass for the island. Nana made it a point to show off her quirk to the tour guide as she floated a small sphere of lava from the lava flow that was pouring into the sea, and manipulated it into a small sphere with a ring system around it before floating the miniature planetoid around herself and dropping it in the water. This action solidified the lava to an obsidian ball which she gave to the tour guide, who was unfortunately quirkless. 23. After leaving the hiking lodge, their next stop was the beach and some scuba diving to see the coral reefs on the island. A few annoying chads on the beach tried to pick up Momo and Ochako but gave up upon seeing their wedding rings and the fact that they pretended to not know English. They took a small boat offshore to the reef itself and geared up to take a dip into the underwater world below them. Before going in, Izuku asked if he could catch any lobsters they could eat, to which the captain told him to get some for the crew as well. For Momo, this part of the trip was especially enjoyable, all the colors and wildlife she hadn't gotten to experience growing up in a sheltered home life, despite the fact she came from wealth. A particularly nosy crab had snipped off one of the straps of her bathing suit while underwater, which caused Izuku and Ochako to laugh in their full-face masks as she created a new top for herself. The next few minutes or so were spent swimming away from Momo as she chased them with a pair of crab claws she had created. The parents of the three laughed hysterically at their antics before going deeper and studying the wildlife of the reef. After the crab incident, Izuku started collecting all the lobsters he could find, being able to magnetize them together in a ball of claws and pincers before levitating them out of the water and onto the boat. The fishermen on the island were quite impressed by the yield and even offered to cook the lobsters for them for lunch. 27. After eating a very delicious lunch, the families of the married trio say their goodbyes and head back to their hotels to relax before that evening's luau. They said their goodbyes to Izuku, Momo and Ochako as they dropped them off at their hotel before Nana said, "Remember, we want grandkids," before laughing as they drove off. This caused them to explode in blush before making their way through the lobby and back up to their room. Once there, they took a shower together once more to get the salt off their bodies and out of their hair before relaxing on their massive king-sized bed. Today was an amazing day, don't you think? We got to go hiking and diving, and I even made a fishy friend today, Ochako says in a happy tone before draping herself on the bed and turning on the television in their room. It's a good thing that they had already changed the language on the TV to Japanese, not to mention we get all the good channels from back home too. Momo adds, taking a seat next to Ochako. A brief silence washes over them before Momo speaks again. "So, how are we going to start this? Do we kiss then?" Izuku joins, or she begins being very nervous about the subject. "Your guess is as good as mine, though whenever we kiss each other Izuku stops whatever he's doing instantly to stare at us," Ochako responds before it gets quiet again. As they woke up, Izuku grabbed a pair of boxers and shorts to put on before opening it to see Toshi at the door. "Hey Toshi, what's up?" Toshinori looked at him and noticed his brother seemed to be a little red. "Nothing much. Did you just get out of the shower or something?" It took the pro a minute before realizing what happened. "So did you use my gift?" Toshinori smiled as Izuku went red. I might have used one or two of it. Izuku, come back to bed. It's cold." Ochako whined as Momo started to groan as well. "Well, I gotta go. I'll talk to you and Mom later." Izuku shut the door with Toshinori smiling at his brother's act. 18. The joys of being young. Toshi walked down the halls thinking of Inko, who had to stay behind like Izuku, Momo, and Ochako. "I should see her before she falls asleep. Maybe the stores around here have some nice mint ice cream." Toshi thinks this to himself as his wife has had a strange craving during the day for mint ice cream and sauerkraut. He didn't understand it, but accepted his pregnant wife's desire to not question it at all. 10. The trip continued with Izuku, Momo, and Ochako regularly doing this act for the nights, with them feeling satisfied with each other. When the trip ended, they weren't exactly proud they had to leave, though they were happy to return home after a well-rested trip that made all their batteries recharge. While leaving, Ochako and Momo noticed Inko being helped to her seat by Toshinori and had similar fantasies that they may be in that same situation one day with Izuku. Ochako went fully red at this, with Momo having a small nosebleed with a smile slightly making itself known on their faces. Nana pointed this out to Izuku, who had gone red himself and hid his face while a similar smile fell on his. A similar thought fell through their heads as the plane started lifting off. What is gonna happen when that time comes? A week had passed since the entrance exams, with Ochako making sure to thoroughly reward Izuku for saving her life from the giant zero-pointer. In that time the family of four had mainly just relaxed and waited for the letters to arrive from UA letting them know if Izuku and Ochako would be getting into the school. Today we find the three Shimura parents taking a stroll through Yavin Park near Mustafu. Eri and Toseki were similar in age, with Eri being older than her cousin by only 1 month. The two infants were raised together and would see the other as their sister and not cousin. Momo was pushing the covered stroller with Izuku and Ochako walking on opposite sides of her. As they arrive at the park, they are met by Inko and Toshinori, who had a picnic set up in the open area. The lime green-haired, blue-eyed baby girl was sitting on her belly on the blanket as the other family arrived at the park. Momo picks up Eri out of the stroller and sets her next to Toseki before having Izuku collapse the stroller down so that it doesn't take up a lot of space. "How's it going, Toshi?" "Very well, Izuku. How are things with you?" "Can't complain. To be honest, I'm as happy as I can be with these three around." Izuku smiled at Ochako, Momo, and Eri, who were happy to hear this, and Eri quickly got her attention by Toshiki, who was wrestling her on the ground. 12. The families sat in a shaded area so the two infants wouldn't get too hot and avoid any sunburn. While doing this, they talked about some interesting stories that happened during their time apart. Momo talked about an embarrassing moment where Izuku and Ochako had done a little bunny dress up with Eri, who was laughing hilariously at her parents being silly in front of her. This earned a chuckle from the two as Inko told a similar story of Toshi doing a similar act as a dog instead for Toseki to make him now feel ashamed that the world's mightiest hero was made to dress up like a beagle for his little infant daughter. This kept going on until a voice brought them out of their conversation. "Well, if it isn't Izuku. How are you?" 30. Everyone looked back to see it was Mitsuki Bakugo, Katsuki's mother. She walked over with everyone saying hello. "So what brings you all out?" Mitsuki's attention went directly to where Eri and Toseki were, where she immediately picked up Eri. "Why, hello, little one. What's your name?" Many wouldn't expect this from Mitsuki, being the mother of the hot-headed Pomeranian of the city, but she always found babies to brighten her mood. The way they're just so straightforward and willing to ask for attention hit the maternal part of the ash-blonde woman. "This is Eri. You haven't met her yet, but she's our daughter." Mitsuki heard this and looked at Ochako and Momo to find some traits of them in the little girl. "She's not biologically ours, if that's what you're trying to find." Izuku smiled as she sat down to hear the story of little Eri. As she heard how Izuku saved her and his wives from a monster that wanted to hurt them, a pronounced respect came into light for the electric, quirked young adult. She also took note how happy and healthy Eri looked to show they really are trying with her. As this happened, Eri started to cry, with Ochako being the closest, and grabbed her. "What's the matter, sweetie?" She pulled the little infant up a bit to realize she needed a diaper change. "Izuku, can you get me a diaper?" "On it." Izuku grabbed a diaper and a few wipes to give Ochako, with her changing Eri and Momo taking the remnants of the older one to the trash. "Seems you three have this down packed." "Thanks, we learned from Izuku's mom," Ochako stated with a smile as they kept talking. In no time flat, an hour had gone by, with everyone deciding it's best to take the kids inside now. Mitsuki said her goodbyes and went back to her home. Meanwhile, the trio decided to stop for lunch since everyone was kinda peckish. They stopped at a fast food shop on the way, with them going inside to let the babies relax in the cool air of the store. While online, they placed their orders, with the girls going first. "I'll take a number 4 please." "Make that 2. "I'll take a number 8 with less sauce please." "Can I get a number 2, number 5, 2 number 7s, a number 4, I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, and any way I can get that in an extra large." Everyone looked at Izuku as he said this, even the cashier. Are you for real?" Ochako looked at Izuku as Nana was next up. "Can I get the same with another order of fries but a diet soda with that? And I thought I ate a lot." Momo was amazed as the Shimura mother and biological son were ordering an insane amount of food. When they got their food, the family watched as they ate all of it without gaining a pound. 80. That was satisfying. Ochako looked at them a little annoyed as she muttered under her breath. "They can eat whatever they want and not gain a pound. Meanwhile, I can't drop a pound no matter how hard I try." Izuku heard this and grabbed Ochako by the side to bring her close. "I never said I didn't like the meat on you. I find it sexy." He whispers this in her ear as she goes completely red at this. "Who wants dessert? Seriously, where do you put it?" Momo starts shouting this, with the cashier hearing this and going pale, thinking of how large that's going to be now. 21. Ochako, do you want to know what I have as your contact name? Your name in my phone is Thikako. Izuku says, turning his phone around to show Ochako her contact info. It shows a picture of her looking back at the camera wearing booty shorts that accentuate her thickness. She blushes seeing this as Izuku simply smiles before licking his triple scoop ice cream cone. This also piques Momo's interest as well. Wait, if that's hers then what do you have saved as mine then? She asks as Izuku scrolls through his phone for a second before getting to her name. Princess Opie, he says giving her a cheeky grin as the contact picture is her in a bikini from a top-down angle of the photo. 32. Later that evening, 1. Izuku, Ochako, and Momo had been sitting in the living room watching some TV while watching Eri play with some building blocks she had and stacking them to knock down. Meanwhile, Nana was going through the mail with 2 envelopes catching her eye. Izuku, Ochako, your letters from UA are here. They got up from the couch and moved around Eri before running to grab them. Momo shut the TV off to come over with Eri while they opened them. Ochako went first with her ripping it open to see a holoplayer. When she started it up, Toshi in his buff form showed up. I am here, on a hologram. As straightforward as always bro. Izuku listened closely as his brother spoke up. Young Shimura Ochako, I'm sure you're wondering why I am on a hologram given by UA. Well, as of next spring, I shall be joining the staff. Okay, he never told me this. Nana heard this and was as shocked as everyone in the room. Now, onto your exam results. On the written test, you scored an 89 out of 100 to make it in for that, and on the physical exam, you scored a total of 48 villain points and 22 hero points to make your score 70. Congratulations and welcome to your Hero Academia. Ochako smiled as this was said with Izuku going next. I am here, on a holo. You probably heard this on your wife's by now, so let me get straight to the point Izuku. On the written test, you scored a perfect 100 with a physical exam score of 61 villain points and 60 hero points to make your score a total of 121. Congratulations Izuku, you not only passed, but you are also our first-year class representative. Welcome to your Hero Academia. 9. As it turned off, Izuku could not believe what he was hearing. He not only passed, but he's the first-year representative. He was beyond happy that this happened. Congrats Izuku. Ochako and Momo hugged Izuku with Eri mimicking them, but decided to try and pull Izuku's hair instead. While taking the little hair puller off of Izuku's head, he checked his student forms that they gave out along with it to make sure the 3 of them were in the same class. Awesome, we're all in Class A. The trio shouted for joy with Nana taking Eri from them to keep another hair-pulling mishap from happening. We should celebrate this. Izuku went to the cupboard to find something sweet before 2 hands grabbed the back of his collar. Excuse me mother, but is there any chance you could take care of Eri tonight? Momo asked as Nana knew what was going on. Just don't break the bed, cause I'm not replacing it if you do until you get into UA's dorms. The 2 nodded as Izuku was dragged to his room by Momo and Ochako. Fortunately for them, Nana had their room soundproofed while they were in Hawaii for their honeymoon. The entire night, she didn't hear a thing and neither did Eri. 22. Time skipped to the first day. The first day of UA had started with the trio accompanied by Eri head down to find 1A. When they finally found it, they noticed it was an enormous door that towered over them. Wow, you took the words out of my mouth Ochako. Definitely. Ah, Eri looked as amazed as everyone looking at the door. Izuku reached for the handle a little worriedly. Just relax Izuku. The chance of Kachan being here is very low. As he opened the door, shouting could be heard from inside. Get your feet off that desk this instant. Izuku opened the door fully to see Bakugo and the blue-haired kid from the entrance exams arguing. That is UA's property and you are tarnishing it with your feet. It is an insult to the upperclassmen WHOSAT in it before and the people WHO made it. Did your old school put that stick up your ass for eyes, or were you born with it? We are getting off on the wrong foot. My name is Tenya Iida, and I am from Some. So you're a fucking elitist. I'm going to enjoy stomping on you. Bakugo was sadistically smiling with this going on. 4. Achoo. Eri sneezed to gain everyone's attention with Iida looking over to them. Hello, my name is Tenya Iida of Some. It is nice to meet you. Iida came over karate chopping the air to make Eri giggle at his acts. It's nice to meet you. My name is Izuku Shimura, and these are my wives Ochako and Momo Shimura. It's nice to meet you. Hey there, and this little one is our daughter Eri. Eri started giggling at Iida with him starting to lose his composure again. Though I have no right to say anything against a married couple having a child, it is most unbecoming of a hero in training too. Will you stop rambling and just take a seat? Everyone looked behind them with the family of four smiling. Hello Aizawa, how are you? Nice to see you as well, problem family. He says before turning to face the rest of the class. Cutting the niceties here, this is Ua, now get these on and meet me by the training field in 10 minutes. Aizawa says before walking over to Eri and picking her up from the baby harness on Izuku's chest. Go get changed, I'm gonna take her with me to the field. Besides, I haven't gotten to hold her yet. Aizawa replies before shambling off, leaving the class to go get dressed. 27. After a quick trip to the locker room and getting into their white and blue gym uniforms, the class makes their way down to the training field. Aizawa is seen standing there with an applesauce packet dangling from his mouth with a second one that little Eri is nibbling on. Great, he's getting her hooked on those applesauce packets. Izuku looks at Aizawa, who sucks his dry before taking the one he has out of his mouth. Yeah, good luck not having me spoil my goddaughter. Today we'll be doing quirk apprehension tests. Aizawa takes a ball out of his pocket to toss at Izuku. How far were you able to throw a ball in high school, Izuku? About 80 meters was the longest one I took a distance of. Use your quirks this time. Izuku got into the center of a throwing area as he took his throwing stance. Anything goes as long as you don't leave the circle. Izuku held the ball as tight as he could and adjusted its magnetic polarity to repel matter from it. To add a little flair, he also used 5% alpha to throw it with some speed. As it left his hand, it could be shown that it was gonna go a distance. Expected farther, knowing who you're related to. Aizawa looked at his phone before showing an infinity on it. I stand corrected. Is that even possible? It just happened, didn't it? Care explaining how you managed said feat? Aizawa asks, looking to Izuku. 2. My quirk is a hybrid mediokinesis and electrokinesis quirk with a strength enhancer I inherited from my mother's side of the family. My electricity allows me to change a material's magnetic polarity to repel everything away from it. It also allows me to fly, so what I did was change the poles of the ball so that the effects of Earth's gravity no longer had hold of it because it repelled the gravity from the ball, then I just threw it. Izuku explains, with the others nodding in understanding of how a part of his quirk works. Though a man with yellow hair with a black lightning bolt in it looked visibly confused. He made gravity not work on it, then threw it into space. Kaminari. Don't think too hard, I can see and smell the smoke from here. Aizawa says, commenting on the smell of grinding gears from inside Kaminari's head. Well, you're on your own to do the rest of the exercises and then come back to me for your results. Aizawa says as he manifests another applesauce packet from nowhere and hands it to Eri. 36. With that, the students go about using the training robots for each exercise: 50-meter dash, long jump, high jump, sit-ups, push-ups, punching machine, grip strength, and a final endurance exercise. The 50-meter dash was a breeze for Izuku, having channeled OFA through his body and lunging forwards while causing himself to fly. He spans the entire 50 meters in under 3 seconds, beating Iida's score, who was just slower than him by barely 10 seconds. The long jump and high jump had the same score since Deku can fly. The rest of the apprehension test is kind of a bore for Deku, so Hollow won't bother to describe how they go down, but since this is a fanfic, you guys can go ahead and assume that he won at everything. 5. Good job. Nobody is getting expelled this year yet. Here are your results on the screen here. Since most of today was supposed to be the orientation and meeting your professors and I had you all skip that, you're free to go. First day of actual classes is tomorrow, and for now go check out your dorms, and for the love of God, don't burn them down. Aside from that, there's no alcohol rules or rules against having intercourse, just be protected. Problem family, no murder please, and for the rest of you guys, the cafeteria is on the 2nd floor of the main building. Go eat lunch, then check out your new home for the next 3 years. Have a good day, and Shimura. The munchkin needs a new diaper. Aizawa says in a deadpan tone as he hands Eri back to Izuku, then shambles off back towards his office to go pass out under his desk. As the class of 1A entered their dorms, everyone was kinda brought back a little by the size of the common space. Ochako looked at the area and went wide-eyed at the fact the dorms were so enormous. I live in a mansion now. She went backwards for Izuku to catch her with Eri giggling at her mother's reaction. Does she normally do this? A redhead known as Kirishima asked with Izuku and Momo nodding. So you all are aware, the rooms are labeled with your names and the first floor is the common space. Boys and girls are separated with the only exception being the Shimuras for obvious reasons. A small bald-headed boy known as Mineta started looking at the family with envious eyes. Why is he the lucky bastard that gets to lay with sexy BA? He was cut off however by Izuku with electricity forming all around his body. He looked like a walking lightbulb from the amount of light he was making. I dare you to keep shouting with a baby in the room. Because the second she gets upset, you're going to be juiced. Mineta dropped to the ground with his clothes scorched from the electricity and his pants soiled from Izuku's threat. Anyway, the only spot in this area that isn't shared space by all the restrooms and baths that are split by gender. You are not allowed to leave the dorm hall after 10 and curfew is at 11 where this area will be off limits. I don't care where you sleep, however, Eri better still be the only baby in this class at the end of the semester. As Mr. Aizawa said this, he left the dorms. 27. Everyone went to their dorm rooms for the family of 4 to notice that they have a larger room. They assumed this was due to the fact they have more people living in it and need to accommodate a baby. Izuku got right to work on setting up Eri's things with Ochako and Momo setting up their own. Hours went by with all the students finally finishing. They all came down to the common space to relax with Bakugo acting like a rabid dog from his barking. What did you say, idiot? I just asked if you know anything about Shimura and his wives. I could give a fucking rat's ass about the shitty nerd and his asswipe family. The said family walked down as he said this with Ochako covering Eri's ears since she was holding her. Bakugo, must you honestly shout? It's very annoying and rude to do. Also, lower the cursing to a minimum cause of Eri. Bakugo looked at Momo with anger at what she just said before shouting at her. I'll curse if I damn well please you fucking slew, it wasn't a request. Bakugo couldn't even get a word in before Izuku punched him out a window and into a tree head first. The class looked out to only see his lower half sticking out. Babo. Eri tried to mimic the scene with a toy she had in her hands to throw it out the window. The said toy hit Bakugo on the butt and made a squeaking sound on impact. Everyone started to laugh at this knowing even a baby doesn't like him. 35. Okay, jokes aside. Let's have a room competition. Bakugo will be taken off since he's occupied at the moment. A girl with pink skin named Ashido said this with everyone agreeing. To be fair, that was him getting off easy. If Eri wasn't in the room I was going to hit him in both legs with a javelin. Momo says with a sinister closed-eyed smile and gentle voice. Did you do that when he tried to kick Izuku off the beach? Ochako asks. Yes, the best part of that was him screaming and alternating open-handed gestures to both legs. 21. She replies causing some of the class to swallow a lump in their throats. He ruined our wedding, that was the least he deserved. Momo stated this rather bluntly with everyone making a mental note not to piss off Izuku or Momo and possibly Ochako depending on how things progress with knowing her. The group began on the boys' side with most of the rooms being rather normal for their personality. The only room nobody dared or even wanted to look at was Mineta's that had a disturbing aura coming out of it. It was clear that going in there would probably mess everyone's brains up and just decide to leave without even glancing into this perv's domain. The most insane room though was a bicolored-haired boy called Todoroki. His room, defying all logic, was able to replace the wooden flooring with tatami mats. No matter how much he said he worked hard, there is no physical way he could naturally do this in a day, and this is something that Stillwell wanted to rant about since this made the least amount of sense in the series regarding him. 11. As they got to the girls' side, everyone else's rooms were set in the same way with it coming to the family's room at last. Since theirs was the biggest and had a child, it was on the second floor with Izuku not exactly wanting his family's abode to be looked at. He gave way however with everyone seeing it as a rather normal room considering them. There were a good amount of All Might, 13, and Paragon merch in it with Ochako, Izuku, and Momo shamefully admitting it was all theirs. This was a rather abnormal thing that the trio found out about Momo some time ago. They realized Momo was a die-hard fan of Paragon ever since she was a little girl. Though she retired before she was born, the fact this woman was strong enough to become #1 and be a mother gave her admiration beyond anything for the retired hero. This, however, creeped Nana out when she realized this. Not the fact that Momo was a fan, but how deep she did her research on the retired pro. 5. The inspection of the room went rather downhill when a certain pervy duo found some unique items in a drawer. Izuku only realized when they held up condoms and lingerie that he got the girls as a gift. To say he was enraged was an understatement. He stomped over and put enough bolts inside them to turn them into living fried chickens. He placed the contents of the drawer back in with him staring at everyone to get them out. Once they did, Izuku dragged the pervy duo out and put them in the trash can in the common space, hoping that would teach them a lesson. Meanwhile, everyone was voting on dorms that they thought were the best, with a muscle guy known as Sato being the winner. Sato got most of his votes because of a cake he made after getting done early, to which all the girls voted for his room. 5. Once this ended, Momo brought Eri upstairs to change her into something to sleep in and to be breastfed. Ochako went into the kitchen to start some tea for them, with Izuku working on a playpen for Eri while she spends time in the common space with everyone. When Momo came back down, she had a baby monitor in her hands with the three sitting down to drink their tea. They seemed to have a sink down since they drank and sighed in satisfaction at the exact same second, to make everyone take note of. "You guys do that often?" Hiroshima asked, with them shrugging in unison as well. "Okay, that went from cool to kinda freaky." A girl with aux cords for ears called Jiro stated this, with Bakugo walking through the door with his torso still in a log of the tree he was stuck in. 2. "Hey Kachan, want some tea?" "Go fuck yourself." "Come on Bakugo." Izuku was just being nice, no need to get your panties in a twist. "That's Kachan for yes," Izuku says as he passes a mug to him. He drinks it all with him glaring at Ochako. "You try something like the fucking gigantic bitch over here, and your dead round face." Ochako gave a dead look to him before getting an idea. She whispers to Momo, who creates a small item for her. She sneaks over to Bakugo to place it in his back pocket and sneaks back over to Izuku pretending like nothing ever happened. A few seconds later, the sound of something going off and a large amount of trucker swearing was heard from upstairs. 5. Izuku looked over to Ochako, who placed the small item in his pocket, to ask, "What exactly was that, stink bomb?" Izuku nodded before the baby monitor started to pick up Eri crying. Izuku started to get up before Ochako patted his shoulder. "She probably woke up because of Bakugo, so I'll handle it." She walked up to the room for everyone to hear her handle Eri calmly and lull her back to sleep. When sound wasn't heard anymore, Ochako emerged from upstairs smiling while sitting down again. "You three seem to have parenting down rather well." Iida states this with the three looking at each other and nodding. "I guess we do." Zuku, Ochako, and Momo woke up to the sound of an alarm going off. Agitated by waking up from a pleasant sleep, Izuku zapped the alarm into bits before hearing a giggle from a little snowball. 5 more minutes. Izuku grumbled as they started to hear Eri get a little fussy. Izuku got up at the sound of this, not happy but accepted it. "Come here sweetie, come to daddy." Izuku picked up Eri, who immediately hugged him. "I see, you just wanted your daddy to hug you." "She is daddy's little girl Ochako." Izuku glanced over to see Momo and Ochako up and smiling at the two. "I'm gonna go start breakfast. Do one of you mind bathing Eri and putting her in something to wear today?" "Momo handled last night, so I'll change her today." Ochako smiled as Eri came into her arms and began to play with her face. As Izuku went down to start cooking, Momo offered to help today. The two of them were able to get everything done quickly, with making a little extra for their classmates. "Something smells good." Anke, Hiroshima and a few others had come down to the smell of Izuku and Momo's cooking. The two placed everything on the table, with the rest of the class starting to come down now. Ochako came down with Eri, who was wearing a cute yellow sundress, to make everyone marvel at the adorable little white ball of sunshine. "She is just adorable." Their classmate Hagakuri stated this, with Ashido agreeing. To this. "Is Eri's bottle ready?" Momo passed Ochako the bottle, to which she happily gave the little girl it to almost chug. "Alright, let's eat." Everyone started eating with the sound of the dorm Pomeranian blasting down the stairs. Deku. Oh, for the love of. 1 second. Izuku stood up and put his fingers up, counting back from 3. When he hit 0, Bakugo came barreling down the stairs with explosions for Izuku to grab the collar of his shirt and slam him down to the floor. "Remember last night, Kachan? 'Cause if you keep doing this, Principal Nezu will have you and me replant all the trees you go into. I don't want to, and I'm sure you don't want to either. Now shut up and eat like a calm person. I don't want your anger issues to rub off on Eri." As this was said, Eri started burping and giggled at herself to make everyone laugh. Bakugo angrily admitted defeat and sat down. A few comments were asked about the family and how they all met. Some of the girls died on the fact of how Ochako and Izuku got together and how Izuku came to the aid of both girls to be their knight in shining armor. The boys for the most part respected his chivalry in wanting to keep each girl's feelings to be known when the relationship started. Mineta and Bakugo could care less though, they just wanted to either kick Izuku's ass or find some way to hear some juicy details of the honeymoon. As they finished, they all headed to class after cleaning up and heading out the door. 8. In the afternoon. The day had been relatively normal for the most of it. The morning classes were like any other university with math, literature, history, etc. But when the afternoon classes roll around, that's when UA's hero course really begins. The members of Class A had all been sitting in the classroom with Eri enjoying sitting on the lap of Momo. Everyone just adored the little girl with her adoring everyone else. The only two she didn't like were the explosive blonde who regularly picked fights with her parents, and a perverse grape-headed man who she scowled at whenever she got the chance. Many found this hilarious, but the midget didn't. 12. As they waited, they heard a familiar voice from outside. "I am coming through the door like a hero." All Might came through the door with everyone marveling at the hero wearing his Silver Age costume. Izuku noticed something notable about the costume though that caused him to snicker a bit. He lost some bulk. Mom would kick your ass for getting soft Toshi. Hero training, it's what makes small sprouts like you grow into the pros of tomorrow. For this exercise, I shall be teaching you. Today's lesson shall be. All Might held a flash card up to shout. Battle training. And what hero would be complete without their hero suit? All Might hit a button to bring out 20 cases with numbers on them. Change into your costumes and meet me down on ground beta in 5. Everyone did as All Might was told and began changing. While changing, Mineta had gained the attention of the class to something he found. Kaminari, check it out. A peephole to the girls' changing room. Iida was going to scold him, but was stopped by Izuku. He wanted to see if he was going to actually have the balls to peek on his wives. I can see it now, Ashido's sexy silhouette, Hagakuri's floating panties, the Shimura girl's enormous rack and oh lala bow. Get another inch closer to that hole and you're going to be juiced like the grape you are. The lights started to get crazy bright with electricity pouring out of Izuku. The only man that gets to see what they look like right now is me. You wouldn't just be committing a crime right now. You'd be committing adultery that will eventually lead to your murder. Cracking knuckles have fried a villain before for trying to harm my family, don't think I won't go so far for them again. Mineta started to freak as he fell to the floor soiling himself. 23. Good. We're all in agreement then. Everyone nodded, afraid of what Izuku would do to them if they ever actually pissed him off. Thanks I owe you one. Ashido smiled on her side hearing Izuku's death threat with Momo and Ochako humming a happy tune, knowing someone that deserved to feel Izuku's wrath is getting his dues. Remind me to stay on his good side. Ribbit. Jiro and Asui felt fear in their souls after hearing what they did. All across the changing room, a single thought went through everyone's mind. Mental note, don't ever mess with the Shimuras. 5. On ground beta. Everyone started to line up with all of them in their costumes. Izuku, your costume looks so cool. Ochako shouted in cheer with Momo agreeing. 4. Thanks. I like both your costumes too. Ochako started to blush a bit with the costume being a little too tight for her liking. Seeing her in it, he walked over to whisper in her ear loud enough for the little family to hear with satisfaction. When I first saw you in that, I was wondering if you were trying to seduce me. He sent a small bit of electricity down her spine to send shivers through her body. He looked over to Momo and grabbed Eri from her before zapping her butt to make her jump. I thought the same thing when I saw you in this little thing. Ahem, may we continue? Sorry. Please do. 4. All Might began explaining the exercise being one that's a 2-on-2 in a scenario of heroes tracking villains down to a hideout to stop a dangerous bomb. The heroes win if they find and touch the fake bomb, or incapacitate both members of the other team. Villains win if the time they have runs out or they incapacitate both members of the other team. When lots were drawn, Izuku was paired with Ochako, while Momo was paired with the small pervert. The first match was Izuku and Ochako as the heroes against Iida and Bakugo, who were the villains. Villain team has 5 minutes to prepare before the hero team is able to head in. Make the most of it. Izuku and Ochako stayed outside looking at the floor plans, trying to memorize it. How are we supposed to memorize all of this? Done. Izuku crumpled the paper up and threw it behind him to make Ochako look at him like a crazy person. Just how smart are you? That isn't smarts, that's me having a photographic memory. Ochako didn't know what to say at that. Okay, Mr. Photographic Memory, what do you have for a plan then for today's lesson? Izuku looks up at the building and gets an idea. He smiles ear to ear before telling Ochako, who gains a grin bigger than the Cheshire Cat. Bakugo is gonna be mad. Exactly. Izuku and Ochako get the green light to enter in, with Izuku picking her up bridal style. You certainly know how to sweep me and Momo off our feet, Izuku. You better believe it. Izuku walks to the side of the building and puts his right foot out. He begins magnetizing his feet to the wall, with Ochako making them both weightless. After the first foot is done, Izuku magnetizes his other foot and demagnetizes the first after. He repeats this process until they get on the roof, with Ochako putting their gravity back on. While entering, they hear a conversation between Iida and Bakugo, with the latter walking out of a room. They look at each other and think this is going to be easier than they thought. When Bakugo got a distance away, Izuku kicked the door in and sent an electrical current at Iida. He was magnetized to the floor, with Ochako running in to touch the bomb. Hero team wins. Yeah. Izuku and Ochako high-five each other, with Iida below them, ashamed of his failure. 3. It's okay, Iida. This is why we practice. Izuku demagnetized him and offered a hand up to lift the engine user's spirits a little. They begin to make their way to the control room below them, with Bakugo already there, incredibly pissed. Deku. Bakugo goes over to Izuku ready to fight. Hey Kachan, good ma, shut the hell up and fight me like a man and not like one of your bitches. All Might, shouldn't you get involved? Hiroshima asks this, a little scared of a fight breaking down between the two. I have known these two for years. Fighting is just how they interact with each other. If it does go overboard, I will jump in to stop it. As All Might says this, Ochako goes over to Momo, who is recording the fight, prepared for what is going to happen. Bakugo comes at Izuku, who only uppercuts his jaw to send him flying into the roof, with his upper half in the bottom of the next floor. Something tells me this is going to be normal. Kaminari looks at Bakugo's lower half struggle, while the aggressive Izuku goes over to make Eri giggle with a silly face. This confused many, since the young father went from being the Terminator to being a kind cinnamon roll. While this happened, Izuku stood straight up to kiss Momo and shock her ass in a playful manner. You perv, that doesn't sound like a complaint to me. While this happened, Ochako came over a little jealous, with Izuku noticing. She began to puff her face a bit, with Izuku walking over to grab her waist. He leaned in to whisper in her ear something to make her blush a little. Jealousy doesn't suit you. After this, he shocks her ass in a similar fashion to Momo. If you wanted me to flirt with you as well, all you had to do was ask. I'm more than willing to. She starts to giggle a bit at this, with everyone getting a bit embarrassed by looking at what looked almost like foreplay for something. 4. You bastard. Why is it only you that gets these sexy lady? Izuku halts his rant by grabbing Minetta's head and squeezing enough to almost break his skull. Let me keep this simple for you, midget. You try anything with my wife while paired with her, I will fry those tiny grapes you have below the belt and the vine they are attached to. Understand? Minetta started shaking while nodding. I may have you do that even if he doesn't. Momo answers this calmly, with Minetta crying. Why? I've seen how you look at me and Ochako, better to keep bad influences like you away from our daughter. She states this with a disgusted look on her face. Izuku gave him an evil smile before channeling a small amount of electricity to his eyes, causing them to glow an ominous silver color for a brief moment. 9. Mineta was in tears, looking up and pleading at Momo. Please forgive me, he's going to kill me if you don't tell him not to. For some reason after this, Eri deemed it important to kick the perv in the face and try to blow a raspberry with spit coming off her that Ochako began wiping off her. No, like this, sweetie. Like this. Izuku punts Mineta through the roof and out the building into the one across the fake city's street. Momo was not proud of Izuku doing this in front of Eri and made it known. Izuku, don't teach our daughter these things. Are you sure doing this was a bad thing? Ochako states, with Momo thinking about the fact it was Mineta who since the first day was giving them both dirty gazes. Fair point. 21. Matches kept going on as normal with the end of the day upon them. Izuku, Ochako, and Momo had started walking back to the dorms with Nana waiting for them with a cat carrier. Hey mom, you got Mushu and Korin in there? Yup. Also, here's the form of allowance for them that Nezu agreed to it. Keep it with you somewhere safe. Izuku grabbed the paper and put it in his pocket before taking the cat carrier and hugging his mom as thank you. Momo and Ochako joined in as well, with them heading inside. What's with the carrier? Their classmate Siro asked, with Izuku opening it near the couches. When the contents came out, it revealed 2 cats rolling out. One was a pure white cat, the other was a black cat. Hey you two. The twin cats looked up to see its masters and ran to them to cuddle. What's with the cats? Jiro questions while Momo takes the lead in explaining. These 2 are our pets. Mushu is the black one, and Korin is the white one. We adopted them as kittens, with them being the runts of the litter. They love to play with each other and are not afraid to cuddle. Korin was one of their names. Isn't that the name of the same Korin from Dragon Ball Z where he grows senzu beans? Hiroshima asks as Ochako puts Eri down, with the 2 cats licking her to earn an "aw" from everyone. Yeah, my older brother was a huge fan of that show when I was little, and as a result, so am I. I found it fitting that we named one of our cats that. I wanted to name Mushu after Beerus, but Momo didn't let me, and he's not a naked cat. Izuku replies. The rest of the evening went pretty normal, with everyone doing any school work they had and just hanging out. When it was time to turn in, Mushu and Korin went to sleep in Eri's crib, with them snuggled next to the little girl, making sure she was comfy. Her parents made sure to take as many pictures as they could before heading to bed themselves. The couple started to wake up this morning to a familiar feeling of their pets playing with them. Izuku had one nibbling on his face, while Ochako and Momo felt one alternating between their feet. This was a feeling I did not miss yesterday with you troublemakers. Izuku sat up to see he had Mushu on his face, with Korin playing at the foot of the bed, thinking their feet were toys. Izuku, who's on the foot of the bed? Ochako asked, with the electric user passing Mushu to her. I'll give you a hint. It's not this one. Ochako and Momo started to slowly get up to see Korin looking at them with Momo's big toe in his mouth. She started to turn to see it was 7 in the morning, with Eri giggling at them. 6. They work better than an alarm clock, if anything. I'd rather not wake up to the feeling of my toes being chewed on by a small cat. Momo had grabbed Eri to feel she needed a change. Izuku handled that while the girls went down to the common area for breakfast. Common Snowball, time to get you into a clean diaper. Eri started to smile as Izuku handled this. When she was changed, he started going down to see Ochako and Momo making breakfast, with Korin and Mushu relaxing on the counter. Really, you two? You couldn't do that in our bed. Eri reached for them, with the cat duo walking over to lick her head. Ah, Izuku looked over to see Ashido and Hagakure watching this happen. That's adorable. Do they always do that? Enough where it's normal. I think Eri looks at them as siblings as well. Both girls smiled at this, with Eri petting the cats. As this happened, Mineta started walking down to see Ochako and Momo in booty shorts to begin fantasizing about them. Keep your sick thoughts to yourself, pervert, and don't make them with me in the room. Mineta looked over to Izuku, who was still tired and didn't fully threaten him. I still don't understand how someone like you got 2 sexy pieces of a zap. A lightning bolt just barely misses Mineta to make his face tingle from the act. He looks over to see Izuku now angered. Wanna try that again? The perv ran away with Izuku blowing smoke off his finger. Nice shootin' Tex. The green head looked over to see his wives smiling with breakfast for everyone. Now it's time to wrestle up some of 'em vittles, cowboy. Ochako spoke in a western cowboy accent with Momo making a ranch hat to wear, making everyone laugh a little. They ate with people piling down one after another to get used to dorm life and talk with their newly acquainted classmates. Things started to get a little dicey when Bakugo came down angered and demanded a rematch with Izuku and began to get violent when being told no, but he quieted down when Momo was seen with a baseball bat and Ochako with an oversized mallet emphasizing him to back off. 7. Some hours passed with a knock on the door. Izuku opened it to see a familiar green-haired girl with a smile. Inko, nice to see you again. Ah, he glanced down to see his niece in his sister-in-law's arms. Hello to you too, Toseki. How is my favorite niece doing today? Izuku picked up Toseki with her, happy to be held by her uncle. So how's Toshi handling being a teacher, Inko? He's managing. Teaching is new to him, so it's something he's trying to work with. The flash cards were a dead giveaway. Ochako said this with a laugh while Eri was in her arms reaching for Toseki. The two placed the infants in a playpen where they began playing with some stuffed animals they had in it. Yo Shimura, who's the fox? Jiro smacked Kaminari upside his head for the comment before Izuku answered. This is Inko Shimura, my sister-in-law and the husband of All Might. You hit on her again, and you will most likely have a Texas smash to the face by a very protective husband. B.A. Toseki threw a stuffed bear at Kaminari, who immediately got on his hands and knees apologizing. Geez, mention my family once in this group and every person is shitting a brick. Izuku thinks this while understanding his family is. Anyway, are you sure you can handle watching the two, Inko? I don't want to place too much of a burden on you. It's fine, Izuku. These two tend to be much more entertaining to the other when they're together than I could be. 13. Izuku, Ochako, and Momo walked over to the pen to pick up Eri and give her goodbye kisses. Your mommies and daddy will be back later, okay? Will you be a good girl for Auntie Inko? Eri started to smile at her parents before being put back in the pen. If you need anything, please call us. Momo, it's alright. I'm certain these two will not be a handful. Okay then. We do appreciate this, Inko, so we'll find something nice in our travels for you as a way to make it up. Thank you for the thought. Enjoy your date. The three left with Mushu and Korin finding their way into the playpen to play with the infants. Seems you two made yourselves at home. Inko opened a book while most of Class A went on with their daily lives. In the city, the trio began walking around Mustafar looking at what was around. Been a while since we were out and about with just the three of us, hasn't it? I must agree with you there, Ochako. I do enjoy our time alone, but it feels strange without Eri. The two agreed with Momo. When they passed a small bookstore, Momo asked if they could head in, with both agreeing. They browsed their selection with Momo finding an encyclopedia on some more advanced items she wanted to try. Meanwhile, Ochako found the new manga to the series she liked, with Izuku picking up a book called 101 Bedtime Stories for Kids. The three went to the counter with Izuku paying for them, with the cashier giving them a smile before they were finished. As they looked in the city for other things to do, they began to feel as if they were being watched. Momo made a small mirror to see it was their classmates Ashido, Kirishima, Hagakure, Jiro, and Kaminari who were tailing them. What do you want to do about this, Izu? Izuku thought about it before getting a fun idea. Let's mess with them a little. Both girls nodded and let a small giggle out. They looked around before finding a store for adult items, with the five following them in. Kirishima and Jiro started to go a little red in this store, seeing things that were kinda inappropriate in their minds for them to be looking at. Things got even worse when Momo began looking at some lingerie that were revealing to make Jiro's mind short-circuit. 1. As this went on, Ochako came over and showed her a few items, with both having a laugh. One person they didn't see, however, was Izuku. As he came over, he seemed to be holding a movie in his hands and saying some things to them. The act made them go red with the desire to know, killing Ashido. They went to the counter with Izuku giving the two of them a slight shock to their butts to make them slap his own. The four that were still conscious watched this and didn't know what to say to what just happened. They quickly followed them out as they made their purchase and left the store. The trio began to enter a local pharmacy for the five to head in. Jiro was unable to move, so Kaminari agreed to carry her on his back. As they went in, they found Ochako and Momo in front of some stuff. While glancing a little closer, they realized that the two were looking at pregnancy tests. Are they thinking they might be pregnant or something? Ashido whispered this with everyone trying to figure this out. They noticed Izuku walk over with a smile while holding up a bottle for them. They began to speak a little with the five getting closer to hear them. They could only get bits and pieces, but a few things were mentioned clear as day. Are you both sure about this? Indeed, I would adore to have your children, Izuku. Same here. Let's have a big happy family. Then I'll make sure to keep you both satisfied tonight. Both guys dropped their mouths at this comment with Ashido and Hagakure going red at this. They're trying to have babies. No way. They were so conflicted with this information that they didn't notice the three walking away and out of the store. In an attempt to not lose them, they ran after them to see them walking on a street holding a few bags. 6. The three stopped at a building with them turning to head inside. Jiro finally regained consciousness to realize where they went into. Why are we in front of a love motel? Her shout made all five of them realize what was happening. The three were going to use their time right now to conceive a child with what they bought. The fertility drugs to ensure it, the items at the store for the event, and the motel so they wouldn't disturb their daughter if they had done it. The five ran in to make certain for themselves to be stopped when they immediately ran in by Izuku making their feet stuck to the ground. Care to explain why the five of you were tailing us through most of the day? They turned to Izuku, Ochako, and Momo staring at them with a bit of agitation. Sorry, we kinda wanted to see what you three do on dates and well, we came in on you three preparing for another baby or two. Ashido held her head down with the three beginning to laugh at them. They motioned them to follow outside so they could clear a few things up. 1. To be fair, we've known you were following us since the beginning. Ochako said this with the five looking at her confused. To be honest, most of today we were messing with you as a reason why you shouldn't do this. But what was with the pharmacy stuff? The pregnancy tests and the bottle of fertility drugs. Iron vitamins and thermometers. Izuku pulled them out to show them. I need quite a bit of iron in my diet as my doctor said. Something about my quirk causing issues with my levels when I make myself weightless. Okay, but what about the talk in the store? Acting to mess with you. Izuku said in a deadpan retort as Jiro said her final part. But what about the adult store? You three bought some stuff there and I'm certain you can't get much misinterpretation there. Jiro stated this with, oh that, I figured I would do something nice for Mineta since all I seem to do is threaten him. I want to be his friend but he needs to stop the perverted shit with my wives first. To be honest, I'd rather Izuku not since he looks at us with those disgusting eyes of his. Momo passes the bag to show only the video and nothing else in it. So this entire trip, you've been messing with us. That's right. Kaminari held his head down as the trio started to laugh at them. You should have seen your faces when you thought we were actually thinking about having more kids. Priceless. Izuku started to laugh very loudly with Hagakure asking a question. So you don't plan on having kids? Izuku is about to speak but is interrupted by Momo and Ochako in unison. Oh we are and it will be sooner rather than later since we found out that she's pregnant. They say pointing at the other. Not 12 seconds later Izuku passes out. Both girls laugh at their husband as Ashido makes certain of something. Wait, you're both pregnant with Shimu's kids. No. That was a joke Mina. Ochako says this with Momo explaining. We kinda like to mess with Izuku a bit, so we figured this would be the perfect time to make a gag about being pregnant before it actually happened. They looked over to see Izuku still unconscious with a big dorky smile on his face. To be fair, I think you both made him really happy with that thought. Hiroshima states this with seeing Izuku on the ground. At least we know he would like that idea. Ochako nods at Momo before making Izuku weightless to carry him home. Before they do however, They stop at a cake shop to get a green tea cake for Inko as a thank you since she enjoys the taste. 2. At Ua. The 8 walk through the door with Inko sitting on the couch with Toseki and Eri sitting on her lap watching a show with her. Izuku regained consciousness not long before returning and brought Eri into his arms to make her smile. How was today for you 3? It was nice. Mainly because of these 5, but it was still really good to relax and kinda be our age. Ochako brought the cake over to Inko who thanked them with Toseki trying to grab it with her hands. Her mother brought the cake and the infant into the kitchen to open the box it was in and grab a little slice for her to try. Toseki seemed to enjoy it and smile at Inko before hugging her mother. So how was Eri for you? I know she can sometimes be a handful. She was content. Her and Toseki seemed to play for most of the time they had with little if any problems. That's good. Izuku brought Eri over to her mother's who she practically jumped to. After a little more small talk, Inko had to leave since she had an early shift tomorrow at the hospital. She said her goodbyes and offered to babysit again if the couple needed someone to watch Eri. They thanked her for this before she left. As they turned around, Mineta walked in to see Izuku and panic. Perv, catch. Izuku tossed the DVD to the small grape for him to see what it was. Quote. What's the catch? No catch, I just wanted to give it to you as a way of saying I'm not a bad guy. You treat us nicely and respect the fact these 2 are my wives, we can be friends. You don't, and you know what happens. Izuku points to the still broken window from when Bakugo tried to pick a fight with him the first night with Mineta getting the picture. Thanks. Mineta walked away with him starting to shake while reading the back of the case. I'm gonna pretend I don't know what's running through his brain right now. Izuku shivered as he remembered what the back of the DVD said before feeling Eri to know she needed a change. The weekend came and went in a blink of an eye for everyone and began settling in. The members of Class A had started their school day with waiting for their homeroom teacher. Where's Eri? Izuku decided to play a little peekaboo with Eri as she seemed to enjoy it quite a bit. There she is. The act made the little girl giggle with everyone enjoying the sound of her laughter. Even Mineta was a little happy to see this knowing he liked the lighting user much better in a content mood than one where he seems ready to kill. They stopped when Aizawa came into the classroom however to not distract from anything he had to say for everyone. Good morning everyone. Good morning Mr. Aizawa. Bawi ba adaw. Aizawa looks at Eri and smirks a little. I'll take that as you saying good morning little Shimura. He returned to his normal careless face before starting. I went over your battle work yesterday and for the most part am content. 2 that I want to point out however are Bakugo and Problem Child. He turned to Bakugo first. Your ego needs to be fixed. Being the best means more than having talent and strength. He turned to Izuku next. Nicely done on your part of this, but you've still got a long way to go. Don't let the fact you're ahead of everyone at the moment go to your head. Izuku nodded with the drowsy teacher getting to his next order of business. 5. Everyone held aghast thinking it was another test with someone possibly being expelled if they don't score high enough. You need to pick a class representative and vice representative. Thank God, it's just normal school stuff. People began to go into a frenzy trying to get themselves to be the class representative. We need someone really manly to be our class representative. I wanna be it. Pick me. As class rep, all girls school skirts will be, Mineta. Izuku just stated his name for him to stop his sentence. I pull back my list from the ranks. The small grape perv sat quietly as Izuku kept his attention on Eri. Good little perv. This kinda surprised everyone as they saw Izuku be able to control their classmate by just speaking. Enough of all this, what we need is to place it to a vote. Iida shouts this while he sits in his seat with his hand raised. Wouldn't we all just vote for ourselves though? Ashido states this with their engine classmate not arguing saying it's going to happen. However there will be some that don't and vote for someone they believe will be more than capable in their eyes. Izuku agreed with this along with some others to at least give it a try over just shouting to hope they'd become the class representative. They started writing down who they deemed worth it before every vote was counted. When they were, Izuku was the class representative by 3 votes with Momo being the vice representative by 2. 5. Alright, which one of you asswipes voted for him? Question mark quote. Thank you for making a point why we didn't vote for Yukachan. Izuku states this in a deadpan expression. To be honest, I'm not even going to take the mantle. You wanted it, right Iida? Yes, but why don't you want it? Izuku sits down with Eri in her hands. Family reasons. Everyone started to get this seeing Eri play with Izuku's face for a few moments. Alright then, class representative is Iida with Shimura Momo being vice representative. Time for first period. 3. Time skip to lunch. The Shimura family had begun eating with Eri sitting on Ochako's lap and playing with a bottle she had holding her formula she consumed. Out of the blue, Iida decided to ask Izuku something he was curious about. Shimura, why did you give up the role of class representative and give it to me? All three lifted their heads before hearing Iida's question for Izuku to answer. If I did, Eri's time with two of her parents would be limited. Though we can't always have all three of us giving her attention as parents, we at least try to make it so she has the two of us around her so she doesn't comprehend she's missing out. Eri began hitting the bottle on the table a bit while screeching to try and speak. 5. You're an honorable man Shimura. I'll do the opportunity you gave me to the best of my abilities. That's all I needed to hear. Izuku began eating with some blonde guy elbowing the back of his head. Hey buddy, you mind being careful a little? Izuku states this while seeing the guy laughing and sounding like a tool. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe that big head of yours is just so in the way. He started laughing before looking to see Eri gumming her bottle. I see you Class A garbage are just so caught up in your own egos that one of you got knocked up and became a filthy slew. The guy was silenced by Izuku punching him with the back of his fist in the face. Hey tool, you have kids. Of course I don't. Izuku started holding electricity in his hand to make his next point understood. You won't get to have any if you don't fuck off. 20. The blonde still didn't get the message with Eri taking it upon herself to chuck her bottle at him for understanding that he's just mean. As it hit, the bottle was able to hit right between his eyes. There was a silence before everyone at the table started laughing. Dang Eri, you can target. She is your daughter Izuku. As they kept laughing, the blonde was about to retort for a redhead to come over and karate chop the back of his neck. Sorry about him. Monoma wanted to pick a fight even after I said it was a bad idea. No worries. You tried to warn him and stopped before he got into a worse situation. The redhead smiled as she introduced herself. My name is Itsuka Kendo. You also already met Class B's idiot Nito Monoma. Izuku Shimura. These are my wives Ochako and Momo, our daughter Eri, and our classmates Tenya Iida and Tsuyu Asui. Everyone said their hellos before going their separate ways to finish their lunch. She seems like a nice person. Momo states this with Ochako agreeing with Eri trying to grab for some of Ochako's food during this. She does, maybe we could be friends. 4. After lunch, as the class of 1A sat in their classroom, Mr. Aizawa came in to explain what was going on for the day. Today we will be taking a field trip off campus to a facility for your next hero class. Today's will be rescue training with myself, All Might, and a third person to assist in this. As everyone heard this, Aizawa pressed a button to reveal everyone's hero costumes. You have a choice of either wearing your costumes or PE uniforms today. I don't care which one you wear, just meet me outside in 5. Aizawa left with everyone choosing to use their hero costumes while heading to the changing room. 6. After changing and waiting for the bus, Iida had attempted to make everyone sit in seat order to only fail with it being similar to a commuter bus. As everyone sat, Eri found herself sitting with her mothers while Izuku was in the front between Asui and Kirishima. Hey Midoriya, can I ask you about your family? Sure Asui. What is it about? Call me Sue. Izuku sighed before correcting himself. Okay Sue, what's on your mind? Well, you and All Might are brothers from how you talk about him. But when we look at the two of you, there isn't any resemblance. Why is that? Because he's adopted. I don't think much about my older brother being not related to me, but it does kinda get annoying when people say stuff like that. His biological parents didn't have enough money to be able to take care of him and he was given to my mother as a toddler. Almost 20 years later, I was born. I don't see him as anything but my brother, and fatherly in a way, My actual dad died before my mother found out she was even pregnant with me. So it's one of those things that I just don't pay much mind to. 5. So he's like your leading male role model that you can call big bro. Nice. Kirishima states this with Sue asking another question. What's your mom like then? To raise you in the #1 pro hero, she must be an amazing person. You have no idea. Izuku, Momo, and Ochako answered in unison as Izuku explained a little farther. My mother was the former pro hero paragon who retired not long after having me. Wait, you mean that chick that's on posters in your bedroom? Kaminari asks this with Momo holding her head down in embarrassment. Yeah, and she's still strong enough to whoop everyone here. She even puts our #1 pro in his place when he's acting a little fresh with her. Ochako and Momo giggled a bit, remembering some occasions when Nana would knock the wind out of Toshinori in his muscle form to bring him down a peg or two. So do you three manage well with being married the way you are, Ribbit? For the most part. I mean, we do have small quarrels like most couples, but it's nothing so intense that we don't care for one another. I'd do anything to keep them happy, as they are willing to do the same for me. Isn't that what love is about? The guys were a tad surprised with the girls being excited for the two that had a married husband that loved them as much as he did. We're here, get off. Aizawa stood up with the bus stopping to let everyone out. While getting out, they were met with a massive building and a familiar-looking pro hero. 6. Hello Ua. It's nice to meet you all. Everyone looked over to see the Space Hero 13 with Ochako being rather excited. Woohoo, 13's one of my all-time favorite heroes. The young mother shouted this with her family laughing a bit at her excitement. I don't want to hear it from you, Momo. You practically fangirled the second you realized Izuku's mother is Paragon. Maybe, but I didn't do it in front of our new classmates. Ochako sighed as Izuku asked for a 13 plushie he had to be signed. Here ya go, Ochako. I took the liberty to ask if he'd sign it for you. Izuku handed the plushie to his one wife as a smile grew on her. They stood there in content as 13 explained what they were dealing with today. 12. The space hero began to explain how the facility they are at is to help with pros to learn to handle natural disasters better. As such, the place was known as the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. More commonly known as the USJ, almost like Universal Studios of Japan. Everyone thought this as they entered. When they looked inside, the area was enormous with areas holding almost any natural disaster they could think of. Before they could continue, the lights began to flicker with a strange portal opening up in the center of the plaza. When it did, a large number of people came out with Kirishima thinking this was all part of the training. Cool, they even have fake villains here. Those aren't fakes, they're real villains. We are the League of Villains, and we have come to kill All Might. Aizawa jumped down immediately with 13 guarding the students. Izuku looked over to Iida who was watching with horror. Iida, go get help. The engine quirk user looked at his friend and nodded. As he was on the verge of leaving, however, a man made of black mist came out to block their way. Hello, we are the League of Villains. We've come here to kill All Might, but it would appear he is not here. Has there been a change in the schedule? Izuku attempted to use his quirk on the mist man, but Kirishima and Kaminari got to him first with blocking Izuku's line of fire. Quite a nuisance you all are. Now, disperse. The man of mist began to separate everyone with Izuku finding himself above a giant pool of water. Like I'm falling into a trap. Izuku used his electromagnetism to float above the water and see shadows of people inside it. He made his way to a boat with seeing his classmates Sue and Mineta with him in the area. They regrouped with the three trying to find out what happened. Where are we? Best guess, still in the USJ. I can't see them teleporting us so far away. Izuku looked around to see what they were dealing with at the moment. Just remember what mom taught you about stuff like this. Analyze the situation and what you can do to solve it. Right now, you're in an area that's meant to act like a flood zone for a natural disaster. A multitude of enemies are around you with two of your classmates in here with you. As Izuku thought about this, he realized something about what they did. 2. Sue, can you jump up and over this zone? Not fully, but I think I may be able to make it to the shoreline alone. More importantly, can you jump to a point not touching the water? They sent me to the worst zone possible. For them. Izuku says with a wild grin on his face. Mineta and Sue look at each other slightly unnerved by what he says and even more so when a ball of electricity forms in Izuku's hand. I wouldn't get wet if I were either of you, he says before floating off the side of the boat then firing the energy ball into the water below him. The ball lightning lights up the water as it sinks further and further into the depths of the artificial ocean. When it crashes into the ground the water instantly boils with arcs of lightning dancing across the surface in all directions. All the villains that were in the water were electrocuted floating to the surface with steam emanating from their skin. All were unconscious and smelled of cooked fish. Izuku turned to Mineta and Sue with a grin on his face. They have no idea what our quirks are and also sent one of the 2 people in our class with electricity quirks to a saltwater lake. Salt water is highly conductive. Add lightning to the mix and well, you see what happened. Izuku says, pointing to a sizzling villain floating by. 8. The 2 held onto Izuku as he used his ability to manipulate the magnetic polarity of them over the water and back to the shore to avoid any lingering electric waves that may be present. Once coming to the shore, they watched their teacher be beaten to a bloody pulp by some giant muscle guy with its brain exposed. What is that thing? Looks like the monster for Frankenstein gone wrong. Izuku states this while seeing it snap Aizawa's arm like a twig. Aarrgghh. They notice their teacher shout in pain with Izuku starting to have electricity coming off of his hair. These freak shows are going down. Izuku was about to get involved before Sue grabbed him. Don't. It'll not end well. As the 2 had a small conversation, the mist man came over to speak. My apologies Shigaraki, but one had escaped. Hearing this made the man covered in hands known as Shigaraki scratch his neck violently. Kurogiri, I'd kill you if you weren't our ticket out of here. I guess we'll just have to leave then. Sue and Mineta sighed in relief at this until he glanced at the 3. Faster than anyone could see, Shigaraki was almost within reaching distance of Sue's head. In fear for his classmate, Izuku used his lightning at his highest voltage to shoot at the villain. The giant muscle beast was able to defend from this however with its own body. It didn't seem to take damage, but was chucked into the general direction of the hand villain to fall to the ground. As he fell, all 5 of his fingers touched the ground to show the floor near him disintegrating into nothing. That could have been me if Shimura didn't do something about it. Sue didn't show it, but she was internally petrified of what could have happened to her. You want a fight? Then come get one. This act angered Shigaraki that Izuku came into the fight to glance at the beast. Nomu, kill the boy. The monstrosity known as Nomu came at Izuku with him channeling electricity and 5% of OFA in his hands. He threw a hit at the beast for him to catch and nearly burn its arm to bits. You like it? I can hold large amounts of electrical volts in my body at a single moment. Think of me as your walking massive generator that powers a big city. Izuku came at the Nomu for it to dodge and try to hit him in the head. The act failed as Izuku used his electricity and OFA to dodge while countering to slam a fist through the Nomu's stomach. The loud sound of what was believed thunder echoed in the facility to give the members of Class A who were split up time to reconnect to the center. They began to watch as Izuku had gone toe-to-toe with the monstrosity that was with Shigaraki. As they fought, Izuku noticed the beast could regenerate with ease to have the black-haired boy smirk. So you can take what I can dish out now, huh? Let's see what you can really do then. Izuku charged at the Nomu with making quick jabs to the stomach before dodging and dislocating the beast's arm for it to attempt to grab him with the second to only have that one ripped off. Izuku then got below to kick in both legs before slamming his fist in the center of the beast's chest, crushing its ribcage to make the monstrous beast drop. It attempted to regenerate again with Izuku now knowing that unless he does something about the one quirk, any hit will be useless. Now's as good a time as any to attempt this. Izuku created what looked like a bow with one hand and pulled what looked like an arrow of pure thunder with his second. 5. Ultimate move. Izuku let go of the arrow for it to go directly at the Nomu's brain with everyone seeing a gigantic light emerge from it. 2D Akrisi, Zeus's judgment. As everyone began to see again, they noticed the Nomu was unharmed with Shigaraki laughing. How sad, that move didn't work. Hahaha. Nomu, kill the boy. Nomu attempted to attack Izuku again with its punch being caught by Izuku with everyone getting spooked by this. 2D accuracy is a technique that I made to sever the link in the brain that allows one to use their quirk factor. In short, I can make someone permanently quirkless with it. Izuku punched the Nomu after saying this to prove he's no more powerful than a normal person. Shigaraki heard this and began scratching his neck uncontrollably. You cheated, you cheater. 7. Shigaraki came at Izuku with him prepared to dodge. But as he was about to, he started to lose feeling in his legs. Damn it, I went too far. As he was about to grab Izuku's face, a piece of pipe came at him with a cannonball right after. Step off our husband hand man. Ochako and Momo shouted with Eri making as mean of a face as she can in a harness on Momo's chest. The four found themselves in a four-way deadlock with the doors of the entrance flying open. Have no fear, for I am here. 5. All Might came through with his normal smile gone with a face that was ready to kill a bitch. The Warpgate villain Kurogiri came by Shigaraki to open a portal for them to escape. This isn't over, little brat. I'll get you, and your little whores too. Shigaraki disappeared with Izuku falling on one knee relieved. Izuku. Both Ochako and Momo run to him with him smiling at them. You three are okay, that's a relief. 7. All Might came over to pick Izuku up on his shoulder to help carry him. Nicely done, Izuku. You saved everyone and possibly even my own bacon. Babe Jerry. Eri shouts this as she reaches for her father. Let's head somewhere where I can lay down, Eri, then I'll hold you. The five went to the infirmary for Izuku to rest with Eri laying on his stomach while giving their testimony to what had happened to the principal. When everything was all over, the family of four had gone back to the dorms to enjoy the evening indoors, having enough excitement for one day. The day had started out rather normal for Shiromo as a CEO. Today, however, him and his wife wished to head over to UA to speak with Momo to make sure her and her family were all right after the whole invasion attempt prior. As a small housewarming gift, Akito had asked the chefs in their mansion to make a small box of some of the trio's favorite foods and something nice for Eri since she can't chew food yet. They were prepared to leave after Shiromo finished finalizing a few documents when an unexpected visitor came to the door. Sir. Yes, Henry. We have Endeavor outside and he wishes to speak with you. Shiromo didn't know what this was about and told the guard at the gate to open the door to lead the number 2 pro to the sitting room. 2. Good day, Mr. and Mrs. Yaoyorozu. Endeavor bowed at them with the couple bowing back as a welcoming. I'd offer you to sit, but I'm afraid you may set off a smoke alarm or something by lighting the love seat on fire. It's all right, this should not take long. Akito went to the kitchen to make sure the lunch was ready while the two men spoke. I will cut to the chase since I'm not a fan of small talk. I would wish for your daughter to marry my youngest son. Shiromo was about to say something when Endeavor began going on a spiel similar to the one he gave Izuku. Think of the strength their child could have holding your daughter's creation quirk and my son's thermokinesis combined. They would be unstoppable to a point, not even All Might would be strong enough to defeat them. Is this what I sounded like when I pitched the idea to Izuku the first time? 11. I can understand the thought of how great the offspring could be, sir, but it's impossible to give your son my daughter's hand. What? She's already married to a nice young gentleman. Endeavor was holding back his anger for coming all the way over here for nothing as he asked his next question very carefully. Who has the pleasure? Izuku Shimura, Paragon's child and All Might's little brother. A very nice boy that cares for her happiness and is without a doubt very strong. I for one am glad he cherishes my daughter the way he does. Shiromo started to happily laugh before seeing the flames on Endeavor grow bigger than they already were. I shall take my leave then. He left, but not before he singed the doorframe of the entrance with Shiromo not liking where this is going one bit. Honey, do you remember if our insurance covers fire damage to the doorframe? I believe it does. Why? Let's just say Endeavor was not too pleased to know Momo's married. 4. Meanwhile with the young Shimuras. The family of four sat in a detective's office for a familiar face to show itself to Izuku. Nice to see you're doing well, Izuku. It truly has been a while, Tsukauchi. He shuts the door before going to pull the camera wires so they can speak freely. Alright, now we can speak without someone hearing our conversation that shouldn't. Ochako and Momo looked at Izuku for some kind of explanation as he said what's going on. This is Detective Naomasa Tsukauchi, an old friend of Tashi's that is able to help us on the police force. He also knows of OFA and its backstory, so don't be so afraid of letting it slip with him. That helps a lot, indeed. Bah, Eri started shouting to try and mimic her parents. Alright, let's get down to business for you all to tell me everything you found out about these two. Tsukauchi passed 2 photos showing Shigaraki and the Nomu. Izuku started to explain what he knew of the beast known as Nomu to understand it had more than one quirk. Since this is abnormal in nature and perfect hybrids like that are extremely rare, it's safe to say this wasn't a normal case. He also explained how the beast seemed to not know how to fight and think on its own to add to the mystery. Once Izuku explained Shigaraki, he began to say how he seemed to be very childish in a way. Almost like all of this was just a game to him, with the villain throwing a tantrum so to speak when he didn't get his way. He also explained a mist man that went by Kurogiri that seemed to be their ticket out of there to add some uncertainty. Thank you for all this. We also did some DNA testing on the guy you said was Nomu to find out he's a D-class thug who went missing some time ago. We also discovered that whatever happened to him caused his DNA to be almost meshed with 3 others to make things more strange. The thought of someone warping someone's genetic structure this badly sickened both Ochako and Momo, with Izuku only knowing one sick mind that could do this. I know that look, Izuku, and I agree with you. Only one man we know can do something like this. I just can't believe he's alive. That hit by Toshi should have killed him. Wait, you mean, that man? Momo asked, knowing how dangerous the man she was thinking was from learning the story of OFA to have both nod. If we're dealing with some 100-year-old monster, I'm not surprised he's alive in all honesty. Ochako said this with the temperature of the room dropping when Izuku clarified. The man who put a hole in my brother's stomach, killed my own father, along with all the predecessors of OFA before my mother. A man whose name was lost to the ages to only be known as All for One. The mention of his name gave shivers down the 4 adults' spines, with Eri immediately stopping what she was doing to look at her parents silently. 4. With the teachers. The day after the incident at the USJ, Nezu had decided to call an immediate meeting to discuss what happened at the facility. So you're telling us that Shimura has the ability to permanently erase quirks? Not erase, per se. Midnight. What he does is something a little more complex. All Might starts to explain how at a young age, their mother believed that it would be possible for him to do this with being allowed to practice on people on death row with authorization. You see, the brain has a specific nerve that allows the connection to the part of the brain that produces the quirk factor. The issue is that this is directly near a major artery in the brain that handles basic functions in your body. This technique took years of trial and error for him to understand where exactly he needs to aim with precise accuracy to leave the target alive while disabling their quirk. So in short, it's more an advanced version of my quirk since it temporarily blocks the connection to some degree. Correct. Mike started to raise his hand, hearing the part where he could kill someone if he doesn't hit the mark dead on and practiced on death row convicts. How many people did he kill until finally being able to target that spot with confidence? The pro began to remain silent to emphasize that it was quite a bit, making most people in the room go pale. This is why he practiced on death row inmates. He also was shown exactly where in the brain he's targeting by specialists, so he has a clear image on where he needs to hit as a means to help. Aizawa began to speak again, with explaining the issue now. You do realize that whoever this League of Villains is, they will target your brother now, right? I know, which is why we need to be very cautious on how we progress against this group. The meeting continued as normal, with talks of the sports festival being next on the agenda and how they should increase security. Back with the Shimuras after finishing up at the police station, the family was finally able to head home, with enjoying the rest of the day how they wanted. Eri began to get a little fussy from a soiled diaper for the group to take a small detour to a restroom in a nearby park. Since it wouldn't take long, Ochako said she'd handle changing Eri for Izuku and Momo to wait on a nearby park bench. While waiting, they were met unintentionally by Endeavor in his civilian clothes, trying to blow off a little steam. If it isn't All Might's kin. Izuku looked up to see Endeavor, angered beyond belief. Can I help you, Mr. Todoroki, sir? The two stared at one another, with Endeavor starting first. I don't care what the relationship with the Yaoyorozu girl is, but end it. Why would I do that? Flames started to show on the Flame Hero's shoulders with Momo getting between them to be the voice of reason. "We're at a park you two, please don't turn this into a war zone." Ochako started to walk over with Eri for the little girl to start giggling and reaching for her father. "Hello Eri, do you feel better?" The look of the little girl in Izuku's hands while seeing the two girls with rings on their fingers sent another pulse of anger into Endeavor. "I'm going to say this nicely once more, end this marriage with Yaoyorozu so Shoto can marry her. You listen nicely, and this doesn't have to get ugly." Izuku glanced at Momo for a second before asking a question. "Momo, do you have any reason to desire what he's implying?" "Nope, I'm happy where we are right now." This comment now made flames shoot out of Endeavor while glaring down Izuku. "Do not test me boy. You cross me, and you're going to get burned. You think your threats scare me? Did this even go by Shoto before you suggested this? If having someone for your son is so important, find a woman that isn't already in a happy marriage to swindle into this, because we aren't letting you do as you please." Lightning started coming off of Izuku with Eri seeing her father mad to show a little fear. "If you do anything to harm my family, I will end you regardless to you being the number 2 hero or my classmate's father." The two glared at each other before a new voice came over. "Whatever you're doing to anger the Shimuras, stop right now." The two looked over to see Todoroki angered beyond belief. "Shoto, I'd like you to meet your new wife. I never agreed to this and am already happily married, now leave before you upset our daughter more than you already are." Momo finally had enough of seeing her husband go against a pro to scare their little girl with a crowd starting to form. Endeavor backed off for now with Izuku finally being able to cool his head. Once he did, he noticed Eri start to cry. "It's okay Eri, Daddy isn't mad at you. No need to cry." Izuku held Eri close to him while trying to calm his heartbeat a little. Not only was he threatened to divorce Momo, he was threatened in front of their child who had nothing to do with this. "You all okay?" Izuku looked to Todoroki with an irritated face. "What's it to you? Look, I didn't even know he was doing this until he said what he did just now. I have no desire to comply with him or hurt your family, so please understand I'm against what he attempted to do." Izuku calmed down enough to reply to Todoroki. "I believe you. You haven't given me reason to not to, so I believe you." "Thank you." The group of 5 began heading home trying to understand what just happened. Todoroki explained that his father has done some terrible things in the past such as buying his mother from her family in a sense along with putting him through ruthless training in a way to surpass all might. Not long after saying this, he apologized again to Izuku and Momo since they were primarily targeted this round by his father. Both told him not to worry as they continued to head back to Ua. 8. At Ua. Upon arrival, Momo was met with her parents out front waiting for approval by the school to be let in. "Mother, Father, what are you doing here? Momo sweetie, how are you doing?" Her mother went up to hug her daughter as Shiromo went over to Izuku. "How are things Izuku?" "Fine sir. I overheard about the incident at the USJ the other day. Did any of you get hurt?" "For the most part, we're fine. Just a few scrapes and bruises that are easy to heal, but I made sure we were safe." While giving us a scare, Ochako points this out for everyone to laugh a little. "All right Yaoyorozu, you and your wife can enter." Toshi came to the entrance noticing everyone already together. "Seems I don't have to hunt you 3 down to tell you they're here." The blonde went into the school with Akito giving Izuku a large amount of food as a way to thank them for their time. As they walked, Shiromo began to speak about what he had discussed with Endeavor before heading over. "Izuku, you are still on good terms with my daughter correct? We have small quarrels, but nothing too bad." The man held his tongue a moment as Momo took note of this. "Father, what is this about?" Shiromo let out a sigh before answering. "Endeavor visited our estate before we left for here. He wanted to offer a quirk marriage between you and his son. I told him it was not possible, but I may have rubbed him the wrong way." This began to anger Izuku knowing he not only went to pester him and Momo directly, but also her parents. "I'm sorry if my father did anything to upset you and your wife Mr. Yaoyorozu." Todoroki spoke up with Shiromo smiling at him. "It's okay son, you don't have to worry about it." He seemed to get the picture before he left. "Doubt it." The students all thought this after the fight that broke out at the park prior to this. Ochako opened the door for everyone with Izuku placing the food on the counter before passing out a few plates. "Would you like to eat with us, sir? You came all this way, we should at least give you a nice visit to leave on." "I'd love to, Izuku, but I only have a few minutes before I need to head back to the office. The main reason to come over was just to make sure you all are alright. I hope to hear from you all soon however." Shiromo gave a hug to Momo with Akito doing the same before giving a kiss to Eri. "Safe travels, sir. If you want to get rid of Endeavor, I might just know a slightly more legal way to do so. Remember, Shu and I want another grandkid," Akito says with a wink before walking off to join her husband. The three went red with this before Momo started to remember what they said about Endeavor. "Izuku, I'm so sorry you had to deal with him. It's not your fault, Momo. The man was an ass the first day I met him. To be honest, this doesn't surprise me. Doesn't make me happy though." The tension in the room was kinda thick with Ochako trying to lighten it a bit. "Why don't we go out tomorrow? You know, nice day on the town, a good lunch, it'll take our minds off what happened." Izuku and Momo thought about this with Aizawa coming in to hear. "I'm pretty sure your mother wouldn't mind watching Eri Shimura." Izuku looked over to his teacher who stated this suggestion. "Why do you think that?" "'Cause I'm standing behind him." Nana came in with a smirk on her face while grabbing her grandchild. "The Yaoyorozus aren't the only ones that want another grandkid. Love Eri to death, but that doesn't mean I'm content with just spoiling her rotten." Aizawa passes an apple sauce packet to Eri with the trio shouting in unison. "Stop getting her addicted to those things. Maybe an outing will help us with this. What do you say, Izuku? If it's fine with all of you, then okay." "Yes, Eri's getting a new brother or sister. Nobody said we were ending with that. Why'd I deal with you all?" 1. Aizawa left with an apple sauce packet in his mouth pretending like he heard nothing, knowing that he may have to deal with pregnant women in the future. After the idea gets in Ochako and Momo's mind of possible children, they start to imagine them having an actual family life with Izuku caring for them as he does, along with hugging swollen stomachs on them that held their children. Both went red at this before notable steam came off their heads. "I think I broke your wives, Izuku." "Crap, Todoroki, can you make some ice for Ochako and Momo? My mom just put an image in their heads. I should have you pay me for this, but whatever." Todoroki does as Izuku asked, with the two starting to return to their normal color. Maybe that isn't a bad idea." Both girls thought this as Eri giggles at their embarrassment. The day after the talk with Endeavor came with the Shimura family handling their daily routine with yesterday's conversations between their parents still fresh in their mind. "Hey Izuku," Momo asked her husband who was bringing some tea for everyone. "What's up?" "Well, would it actually be something bad if... You know, Eri had another sibling. As in one made by us." Izuku didn't know what to say. His wife was asking if they could make a baby with the idea of it sinking in slowly. An image of Momo having Izuku's baby in her with it fast forwarding to one with black hair and silver eyes with a few of both their features in it. It wouldn't just be me. Ochako would also join in this. 'Cause it wouldn't be fair if she wasn't. With that, Izuku then imagined a similar picture with Ochako, but instead of black hair, it was her chocolate-colored hair with her permanent blush on the child. The images started to make Izuku gain a nosebleed, to which Ochako came in to notice what they were talking about. 1. Are you both almost ready to go? Izuku's mom is almost here. Ga bega. Both came out of their blush before nodding. Why yeah, let's go greet mom at the gate. Izuku immediately got up with Momo being not far behind him. As they walked, Ochako held Eri with the thought of having a child of her own coming to her mind. She did love Eri, but she couldn't help but question the possibility of having one herself. You three must be willing to get into the baby making thing if you're meeting me here. They looked at Nana, who had a smirk that made them all blush. Actually, we thought of meeting you at the gate since you're taking time to do something like this for us. It is very nice of you to do this, mother-in-law. Momo bowed, trying to correct herself with the retired pro going to pick Eri up. It's alright, I at least get to hang out with one of my granddaughters. Are we going to have fun today, little snowball? Nana spoke to Eri in a cutesy manner to make her giggle. They continued back to the dorms for her to stand in front of them. I've got it from here, just go and have a nice time out. Also, make sure to finish up inside Izuku. Mom. Nana laughed at her son's expense as the girls held a prominent blush of red knowing what she meant. The three said their goodbyes before leaving into town trying to think of something to do. So what do you two want to do today? Ochako looked over to see Izuku and Momo a little off. Izuku, Momo, they came out of their daze to notice Ochako looking at them. You two okay? Yeah, let's go in this place, it looks nice. They walked into the shop to notice it was a baby clothing store. Oh, look at all these cute little outfits. Eri would look so cute in these. Ochako dragged Momo in with her to leave Izuku to look around. In a clearance section, he noticed a baby onesie of his mother's hero costume to bring a smile to his face. I bet Momo would flip if she saw this. Izuku immediately remembered his argument with the flame hero yesterday and how he tried to get him to divorce Momo. If we did have a baby, that would settle this with there being no room for endeavor to fight. In that moment, the lightning user immediately freaked over what he had said. What am I thinking? Momo has to be content with this before we even do this. May I help you find something, sir? No, sorry. I was just browsing. Izuku turned to see a woman in her 30s with an 8-month pregnant stomach. A Paragon fan are we? Something like that. Someone I know is actually a bigger fan. The woman looked at Izuku's hand to notice the ring on his finger. Your wife? Well, yeah. Izuku looked in the clearance section to try and find some other things before he decided to ask the clerk a question. I'm sorry to ask this, miss, but do you have concerns about being a future mother? A few. But my husband loves me and our child, so it's just a matter of how you look at it. If it isn't something you two feel as if you're forced to do and think you're ready, I don't see why it would be a problem. What's on your mind? Izuku took a deep breath before explaining it in the easiest way he can. Well, me and my wife were talking about having a baby and I'm for it, don't get me wrong. But something feels as if I need to hold off. If I don't, I'm afraid we may make a mistake from it. Having children is not easy, sir. Anyone can make a baby, but not everyone can be a parent. If you truly think it isn't time yet to have one, talk to your wife about it and say you need a little time. Rushing into things isn't going to make that unease go away. The woman started to rub her stomach a bit to state proof. This baby was thought long and hard for 3 years. Just give it time and let the thought sink in. It's better to be patient than rush things. Thank you. Also, I hope your child grows up happy. You're welcome and I have faith it will. Izuku walked deeper into the store to find Ochako and Momo looking at a second crib. They noticed him to see Izuku walk up to both and kiss them before showing the Paragon onesie he found. Momo was ecstatic that he could find it with them explaining what they could about infant cribs they had in the store. In the end, they decided at the moment just to go with the onesie Izuku found for Eri and checked out. While walking, Izuku looked at his wives before asking a serious question. Hey Ochako, Momo, do you both think it's really the right time to make kids? To be honest, I'm not 100% after everything that happened the other day. I think it would be just cruel to do to a child. Making them just to stop someone from messing with our marriage, it just feels wrong. Izuku let out a sigh knowing Momo wasn't completely willing to go for this. I'm kinda with Momo too. It does feel kinda wrong and I do wanna wait a little. Sigh, that's a relief. I thought I was the only one having second thoughts. The three laughed while looking where they were. Why did we have to stop in front of this? Your guess is as good as ours. Ochako states this while all three look up to notice they're in front of a love motel. Well, your mother does expect us to have sex today. But we never promised we would make a baby or two today. Momo smirks while saying this as her and Ochako pull Izuku into the building with his feet being dragged on the ground. Guess we're doing this then. 1. You two feel a little better now? Ochako asks the two who were looking at the ceiling with rather content faces. For the most part, I do feel quite relieved after this. Izuku began to think on where his life with Momo and Ochako would go with wanting to make one thing clear to both of them. I'm happy with our lives at the moment. Both girls looked at him while he explained. No matter what happens in the future, I'm happy I can lay here with you too. Snort, that's so corny, Izuku. Ochako began laughing with Momo following suit. How's it funny? I'm genuinely happy to have our relationship the way it is right now. That is what makes it funny, Izuku. Snicker, you are just so honest that it's just too hilarious. Quote. I'm taking abuse like this from a woman whose buns I glazed and another whose melons I did the same to. Nobody said we don't like that fact. Both girls leaned over to give Izuku a kiss on the lips while smiling. It's actually a reason we both like you. The young lighting user smiled at this while hugging his wives close. I'm glad you both are happy with me. Few hours later, Izuku, Ochako, and Momo found their way back to UA to open the door to the dorms. They were met by Eri on the ground crawling over to them in excitement for Momo to pick her up. Why hello there, my carpet crawler. Did you have fun with Grandma Shimura? Eri giggled at Momo while reaching for her face. How did she manage with you? Izuku asks his mother, who came over with a smile. She was a little fussy before I put her on the carpet, but she calmed down when she got free range. Mushu and Korin kept her attention on them so she wouldn't go for other things. Izuku smiled at this while Nana nudged his stomach. So, have you put a bun in an oven yet? The three went red a bit while Izuku answered. It might take some time for that, but now wasn't a good time. Well, I'm not gonna push it. I get that this wasn't your idea of how you wanted to have kids, so don't rush things. Going at your own pace is fine as well. Nana started leaving after saying goodbye to her son, daughters-in-law, and granddaughter. When she left, Eri started to yawn for the trio to decide to put her down for a nap. Within minutes, she was out like a light, sleeping peacefully in her crib. Before the three continued with what they needed to do, they thought about where their lives would go with satisfaction that it wasn't going to be just them alone in it, but all four, with the possibility of more coming along the way. The day after the Shimura's date, UA officially started classes again, with everyone returning to a normal routine. While waiting for their teacher, Eri had sat happily on her father's lap dozing off. She seems kinda tired. Shiro questions this with Izuku answering why. She got up kinda early today, she'll probably be asleep here in a few minutes. With that stated, Eri was then heard snoring while holding onto Izuku's blazer. Anyone wakes her, you're a dead man. Nobody argued this comment as most were curious who was going to teach them, since Aizawa was still rather beaten up from the attack a few days prior. Izuku, Ochako, and Momo knew he would probably be here, since that man wouldn't care if he got run over by a tank. He would still come to class. 17. As the door opened, it showed a bandaged Aizawa, with many freaking out that he was here. Due to the shock, Eri woke up starting to cry. What did I say about waking my snowball? Lightning curled around Izuku as those that were dumb enough to yell started to fear for their lives. Relax, Izuku. It was an accident, with none of them wanting to feel the wrath of you. Izuku calmed down a bit, with Eri starting to nod off again. Alright, first off we need to discuss the matter of the sports festival, which will happen in 2 weeks. Many were questionable about this with the events of what happened. Sir, we just got attacked by villains. Shouldn't we wait or cancel the thing? Mineta, haven't you ever seen the turnout for the sports festival? It's bigger than the Olympics. The male Shimura is right. The fact we're not letting it be cancelled is because it's too big to cancel, and to prove we have the situation under control. But we will hold back the people who enter in an increased security significantly. This is also a major opportunity for all of you, since it helps you all get shown to the world and be scouted by major hero agencies. You have 3 chances, with one being every year, for you to shine. Because of this, you have the next 2 weeks of heroics classes off. Do not waste the time. Classes began immediately after, with everyone rather psyched for the event. Time skipped to lunch. As everyone began to get ready for lunch, a strange aura surrounded Ochako. I'm gonna do my best. She immediately jumped up with her fist in the air for half the class in the area to raise their fist with her to give a half-hearted and slightly creeped out, yeah. She then turned to some that didn't say it to do it again. I said I'm gonna do my best. They did the same, with Sue walking over to Momo and Izuku curious about what's going on. What's up with Ochako? Ashido came over as well, kinda curious too. Yeah, she's normally like the most chilled out of all of us. Ochako wants to become a hero to support her parents. They work really hard to make ends meet, with it being kinda her dream to make them happy and live a relatively easy life. To her, financial gain may be her goal, but it isn't for herself. I see, so she wishes to gain money to help her family. Very admirable. Iida states this with Ochako coming out of this determined state of mind to see Eri reach for her. 5. Hey, what's going on here? Kirishima opened the door to the outside of the classroom to see an insane amount of people blocking their way. What are they all doing? They're scouting the competition. Shitty hair, can't you tell? Bakugo came up to the group to feel rather irritated they were in the way. Out of the way, extras, you're as useless as the shitty authors who make this. Why are you crapping on us, Bakugo? You're the asshole here. Izuku walked over to kick Bakugo out of the way while addressing everyone. Hi, sorry about our friend. He's kinda a bit of a tool who isn't a people person. Can we help you all with anything? Seems the members of Class A aren't as snobbish as we played them out to be. A boy with purple hair and bags under his eyes came over with Izuku smiling at him. Hey Hitoshi, how ya been? Izuku, I should have figured you'd be the peacemaker in all this. Once Ochako heard Izuku mention Hitoshi, she ran over to see her friend. Aizawa, it's been too long. I see you haven't changed. Sorry, Shimura. Many of the students were very confused with Hitoshi walking in and up to Momo, who was holding Eri during this. This must be my little niece. Hello Eri, I'm your uncle Hitoshi. He started smiling at the little girl as she began giggling. Can someone answer me who this guy is? Guess Dad never talked about me. My name is Hitoshi Aizawa, and I'm your homeroom teacher's son. Quote. What? Many of Class A freaked, with a common question being, Aizawa is married and has a kid. For Izuku and Ochako to roll their eyes. Did you all seriously not pay attention to the wedding band on his left ring finger? Ashido, I'm surprised with you since you're the type of person to pick that up rather quickly. Now that you mention it, he does have a ring on his one finger, my bad. Eri began reaching for Hitoshi for him to pick her up and hold the little snowball. To make a long story short, my dad and Izuku's brother are good friends. We've known each other since we were 7, with me, Izuku, and the brunette Shimura playing together. Speaking of her, do you mind if I call you Ochako now? It's hard to think of something to call you. Fair enough, but I'm calling you Hitoshi now since we've got your dad here. The insomniatic young adult nodded while Kaminari asked a question. So who's your mom? Ms. Joke. Everyone stopped to see that family picture in their minds to think a similar thought. How the hell did Mr. Aizawa agree to this? Was he drunk? No, Dad wasn't drunk. Hitoshi got quite a few stares while he explained. This isn't the first time someone questioned my family, but Mom wasn't taking no until Dad finally said fine and went out with her. 5 months later, Mom was expecting me, and well, yeah, I think you get the picture. 53. Shocked was probably the best word to describe everyone in the room that didn't know this. Heck, even the crowd was kinda surprised at this. So you're that Momo girl I heard about. We didn't meet personally at your wedding, but it's nice to officially meet you. Hitoshi gave a small smile while Eri tried to go for his face to notice a small bit of stub to laugh at the feeling. It's nice to meet you, Aizawa. Hitoshi's just fine. Wanna join us for lunch, man? Why not? The 5 left out the room with the crowd making a path trying to figure out what happened. What the fuck was that about? Quote. For once, I think I agree with you, Bakugo. Iida shivered at the thought of agreeing with Bakugo for once in his life with how it ends. He's been with the blonde since day one. 6. As the Shimuras and Hitoshi grabbed lunch, they started talking about the sports festival and what they planned to do for training. So what kind of training did you have planned, Hitoshi? I was thinking of putting in a request to use a binding cloth like Dad's and do some physical training of my own. What about you 3? I was thinking of training my control over my lighting a little more by constantly blasting it until I start to feel numb, with a little hand-to-hand combat with Ochako. Gravity training and combat with me. I was thinking of going over some information for equations and increasing my training with using my quirk constantly. Interesting. At this moment, Izuku had gotten an amazing idea. Why don't you train with us? If you do, you could really show your stuff in the sports festival and get into the hero course like you wanted. You know what, I might. Wouldn't hurt to train with my binding cloth on actual people. Then it's settled, you're training with us, man. B.A. Eri threw her arms in the air to reply to her father's excitement. 14. As the 2 weeks progressed, the four began to train the best they could with keeping their base strength up along with some practice on their quirk use. Since the events would not be told to them until the day of, they had to prepare for anything they could be faced with. The only silver lining they could get is that they knew from past history watching that at least one event would have some kind of one-on-one battle. The issue is, they don't know when that event will take place. Either way, they trained for any outcome they expected to happen until the day of the festival happened. 2 weeks later, as everyone sat in the waiting room preparing to make themselves known to the public, Nana had taken Eri with her for the trio to say their goodbyes to the little snowball. We'll see you later, sweetie. You be good for grandma, okay? Eri spoke to her parents to try and answer them before Nana took her up to the stands. As they turned around, Todoroki was standing in front of them looking at Izuku. Shimura, you're by far the strongest in this school. I will beat you today and prove that I'm stronger. This is my declaration of war to you. Todoroki walked away with both Ochako and Momo curious as to what happened. Did Todoroki just say he's gonna beat you? I guess he did. This wasn't much of a worry for Izuku, but what did worry him was what their bicolor-haired spoke about the day his father attempted to divorce him and Momo. The fact his mother had lost her sense of self and the brutal training he was put through hit Izuku hard as both the son of a hero and a parent to Eri. We're on, let's go. He was pulled out of this by Iida telling them that it was time. 2. As they walked in, Present Mike announced Class 1A's entrance with a roar of a packed stadium inside. The first few classes to be announced were the hero, then general, support, and finally business. Most glared down Class A thinking they were the targets until Midnight took the stands as their referee. Should someone tell Ms. Midnight the issue about what she's wearing? There's children here, not to mention watching Tokiyami. I mean seriously, I know for a fact our kid is watching this. Momo started pinching the bridge of her nose as Mineta gave a thumbs up to the choice. And now, the sportsman oath given to you by the first year's representative. Izuku Shimura, please step up. Izuku walked up hearing many of the general studies students making foul comments about how the only reason he was chosen was because he was the top of the hero course. As he got to the mic, Izuku took a deep breath in before speaking. Thank you all for coming here today and I wish you the best experience you can have. As a member of this school as a whole, I'm sure everyone here enjoys the fact you took time out of your schedule to watch us perform. So as a way to honor your time, we will swear as students of this school to participate in these events as best we can and uphold this school's pride and honor. Thank you. Izuku stepped down with everyone clapping at his speech. Some students in the other classes were kinda surprised he wasn't actually snobby while speaking and made it a point to emphasize everyone as a whole without making it out to be just the hero course. Needless to say, quite a few people had some form of respect for Izuku with his choice of words. And now, time for the first event. Midnight stated while having a giant screen show a slot machine spinning before stopping on an event. The first event will be an obstacle course race. Players will run around the stadium avoiding obstacles we have laid out and come back here as fast as they can. The first 42 contestants to get here first will advance to the next round. Everyone took their positions with Izuku pulling Ochako and Momo back a second. What's wrong? If we do not get as close to the front as we can, we will need to catch up to everyone. Take a second to look at the exit and how we entered in through it. The girls looked to acknowledge what he meant. So first we need to find a way over everyone. You leave that to me, just stay close and hold on. The starter began ticking before giving everyone the green light to start. Just as the three foresaw, the front gate immediately became a battlefield just to exit. Ready. Momo and Ochako held one of Izuku's arms while the other created a bolt of lighting to shoot above the crowd of people and outside. Now, flash blink. The three teleported almost instantaneously at where the lighting bolt was with the leading group who were unable to move due to Todoroki freezing their feet looking up to see them in the air. 2. That was amazing, Izuku. Yeah, but small problem. What is it? We're 30 feet in the air. The three started to plummet while Izuku started messing with their magnetic pull a bit to keep them from falling. This succeeded with them being centimeters from falling face first. Ochako and Momo looked at Izuku with a similar thought in mind. Next time we do that, I'm making a parachute for safety measures. And I'm packing a helmet. Sorry, work in progress. Unbelievable folks, the Shimura trio came out in front to find themselves in the first event. Welcome to Roboinferno. 2. Todoroki began freezing the robots as they came at him with Izuku taking the lead to make his electric bow with a slightly different arrow than before. Blitzfail lightning arrow. He shot it in the head of the nearest robot for a loud boom to be heard similar to that of thunder to make everyone's ears ring. The only people whose ears didn't hurt were Ochako, Momo, and Izuku who had earplugs in as precaution. 14. What just happened? As the light dimmed, the massive robot was no longer in sight with the Shimuras running to the next event. And with an unprecedented event, the Shimuras take first, second, and third going into the next obstacle. As the three made it to the next, they decided to take this with their base strength to not overuse their quirks in this event. This unfortunately ended with them losing first and second to Bakugo and Todoroki before entering into the final obstacle. They began thinking on how to get through with Izuku letting a deep sigh out. Hold on and make me and Momo weightless, Ochako. The girls did as Izuku said with him getting into a sprinting position. I know what you're doing, Izuku, and don't you dare. I'm scared now. Just hold on. Lightning started to arc off Izuku as he merged OFA and his quirk together to charge and create a sonic boom, knocking both Bakugo and Todoroki on a few mines to make them explode. The trio ran into the entrance to obtain first, second, and third place in a single moment. The crowd cheered for them as all three held their right fist up with a smile before heading to the side. To be continued. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Now we will see you in the next video.